And we're live. How you guys doing?
Very good. It has been too long.
It has been too long.
Yeah.
We've all been busy.
Yeah, we have. That and Lent, which is mostly us disappearing from any social media. Well, yeah. I don't know how Caleb's doing. I haven't checked on social media.
I made it about half of Lent, but now I decided to end the podcast. I'm like, if I'm going to end the podcast, I'm also going to probably cancel my Twitter for most of it. And so I've just been Zoe and being on for a few more weeks before I delete the account.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I gotta tell you, Caleb, my wife was sort of spying on you. She's still been on Twitter. She's like, wait, wasn't Caleb also like joining you guys for taking Lynn off Twitter? He's tweeting constantly. I'm like, shame on him.
What a tattletale! Oh, you've been found. You've been caught red-handed, Caleb. This is like I assume this is what Mrs. Ein does when she catches one of your kids on the cookie jar or something like that. This is like, what are you doing? You're not supposed to do that. You promised.
Caleb's basically an adopted son at this point, anyway. So it worked out.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
the black sheep of the family.
Yeah, broke his Lenten promise.
Yep. Well, I did multiple, so I'm still good.
We're finding your priest and we're letting him know, Caleb. Sorry.
Oh, damn it. Okay, well, this is going to be a fun episode. We're just doing a philosophy tier list. The tier list are saints, so S tier is now saint tier. Then it goes A, B, C, purgatory, and hell. So we can put philosophers in purgatory, put them in hell, put them in the saint category. There's like 25 something here.
I feel like it's a little unfair because some of them are actually like recognized saints. So like,
yeah.
like we're sort of our arms are a little twisted. Like
I was gonna make a clarification that I have been told by Caleb that the saint category is not just this guy's a saint, therefore he goes there. We should actually rank them in respect to their philosophical writings.
And only two saints. I've only put two saints on here. No, three saints.
Three saints. I was about to correct you there. I see St. Augustine.
And Augustine. And Maritain has been up for. I keep seeing people are pushing it, but there's no response from the Vatican yet. What's we're saying, because I would love to see Maritain become a saint.
He's got all of eternity. It's fine. There's no rush.
Yeah, he's good. Well, he's a saint, whether we recognize him or not.
Exactly. Yes.
If he is a saint.
So, what are the official criteria that we're supposed to be using for ranking these? Because I have my own sort of idea of what criteria I want to use, and they might not be the same one.
I really have no criteria. I mean, I'm gonna put Nick Land in A tier because he's insane and I like reading him, but he's definitely not an A tier philosopher.
Okay.
It's purely subjective. We can argue it out.
So there's so we'll have to convince each other to use each other's criteria. Okay.
Love it. I love it.
That's part of the stream then. Fine. All right. Okay. I don't know what my criteria are. I was thinking of I guess maybe either contribution or insight or maybe just how well reasoned they are, even if they're wrong. So like Descartes, I think, is actually quite well reasoned. Hume is a complete sophist, but in refuting him, Anscombe made this point. You actually uncover quite a bit of philosophical depth in refuting him, even though he's just a sophist. I'm quoting Anscombe here. So
sophist.
I'd put him like above purgatory, certainly, despite the fact that I think he's like wrong on everything that matters.
Yeah. I want to point out these three here. I mean, I would only call Ayn Rand a philosopher. I mean, I wouldn't call Hoppe or Rothbard one, but I thought it'd be fun given our libertarian background and Austro part of the Thomism thing. I think it'd be fun to have.
Rothbard and Hoppe have written on epistemology as it relates to economics. So we can say that. And political philosophy, certainly, and ethics. They've written on ethics and epistemology, certainly. Hoppe has certainly made known that he's more of a Kantian. Rothbard that he's more of an Aristotelian. Vaguely Aristotelian. I think he has misapprehensions about scholasticism and Aristotle. But, given a few more years, I've heard indices that he might have converted.
Yeah, I've heard a priest friend of his, and I think Rockwell said it as well. And Rockwell, I think Lou Rockwell once said he thinks he's in heaven. I think he had a deathbed conversion. So,
I mean, I know that in Ethics of Liberty, back when I was a libertarian, he did cite Peter Geach and Henry Veitch, both Catholic philosophers, both quite renowned in their time, especially Peter Geach, who was basically one of the founders of analytic Thomism in England and the husband of Anscombe, who I mentioned earlier. And he cites on Ethics of Liberty, which is quite interesting. So I was a bit surprised, but it was actually he who led me to Peter Geach and Henry Veitch, two Catholic philosophers. So, and he's, I think, and he doesn't cite that many people as like supporting his argument for ethics of liberty. He usually cites it for, this is the passage of the person I'm trying to refute here. So that's actually interesting that two of the people he calls in to support him are Catholics.
Yeah, that is interesting. But let's get into it. We're going to start with Rene Descartes. Let's replace him. What do you guys think?
Well,
he's wrong, but he is fun to read, and he's incredibly. You could tell just by reading about him or reading him, he is incredibly intelligent.
And I think in terms of impact, like we covered Maritain's Three Reformers. Like he really points to Descartes as one of the major figures responsible for the modern world being where it is.
Yes,
I think I consider him a major influence on Kant, and from Kant, pretty much everything else in philosophy since then goes through Descartes. I think his contributions to the sciences, I think big part of the scientific revolution is due to his kind of screw philosophy, the parts of it that do have some truth in them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, we can't really deny his importance even just for mathematics. As a mathematician, we do kind of have to take that into some consideration, I think.
Yeah.
Yes, and from mathematics, engineering, and physics, and all the other scientific disciplines.
So what are you thinking? C tier?
I mean, like in some aspects he's A, and in some aspects he's absolutely hell. Like it's hard to balance because it's
so purgatory.
I blame him for so much of what's wrong with the world, and I don't like purgatory because I feel like purgatory is sort of like the indifferent shrug. Like I think we need to go one extreme or the other.
I would go B.
B tier? B tier?
I'm okay with B.
We might move him around based on where we get everyone else in here.
Yeah, maybe if we put someone else I like more in B, and then we lower him to C or something.
And to Bulgakov's point earlier about talking about how the ability to refute them reveals so much, as Maritain brings up, and as Bulge and I will get to when we eventually get to probably just the next chapter of Degrees of Knowledge, the sort of modern trend of what Maritain calls philosophic idealism, where people sort of start in their heads. It's all phenomenological. There's no real, you don't have reality there. The person that espoused that philosophy best is Descartes. And as Maritain points out, it's a failed project, and no one showed that it's a failed project better than Descartes because he did such a good job of trying to make it succeed.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm happy with B tier.
B tier, okay. Jacques Maritain.
I'd go A.
I mean, I'm going A. He's awesome.
I would go A on almost style alone. Like even if he was like Descartes' levels of wrong and everything, I'm like, he's so good. he's fun to read. Good.
Yeah, I'm going A based on his personal facts of his life. Becoming an oblate, his whole conversion story. His conversion story alone is so French. I want to put him in A tier.
I think
it's incredibly French.
The Chad physiology goes up there too. My one sort of devil's advocate point is in terms of like original contributions, because he is a Aristotelian Thomist through and through.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of I think his epistemology is fantastic. I think sort of being a 20th century Thomist and doing a good job of it, I think he's probably pretty unique in that regard. But did he do that much that St. Thomas didn't already do? Is my one sort of caveat for moving down.
Yeah, did he push the envelope? I would say probably not. I don't know. I'd have to read something deeper. I don't know. Maybe somewhere in what's the name? Degrees of Knowledge. We'll find something that. Certainly St. Thomas didn't write much about epistemology, if at all. Yeah. Really, very little.
That's
and it's mostly implied.
What's the term? An exegete? Someone who is just doing exegesis of other people's work. It seems like he's a very good exegete of scholasticism.
Yeah, in a sense, yes. We also have to say that he did actually try to pull a scholastic theory of art out of extremely disparate comments in art and scholasticism. So that is something where he's trying to develop a coherent theory of aesthetics from scholastic points that is, coherent and not just scattered around several places of comments on the ontology of beauty and so on and so forth. So he does have, I think, original contributions or original additions, but in terms of important conclusions for metaphysics, he's certainly not pushing the envelope. I think also that's part of, I think, his point at certain areas where he's saying you don't need to be original, you need to be correct. And that's what matters most.
Yeah. Okay, A tier. We all want agreement on A tier?
A works for me.
Yeah.
Jean Baudrillard.
I quite like him. What have you? I've only read one thing from him, which is the Gulf War did not take place, which I really loved. I just love the title. I love the theory of the simulacrum as other people have explained it to me. I've wrote a short article, sort of using that. So I really like him as a sociologist. I really like a lot of other continental work based on him, such as Byung-Chul Han's. So I quite like him. But
that's what I was gonna say. Is he like putting him as a philosopher? He is a philosopher, but he's much more of a sociologist. Like, if you read Simulacrum Simulation and what's it called? Oh my god, his book on beauty or aesthetics, System of Objects. If you read his philosophy, they're kind of not great, but read his sociological books and like I said, Modern People Think, it's top tier. Like I'm a big fan of Baudrillard. So what are you saying?
Take Baudrillard literally, and metaphysically literally, then you end up with an insane, incoherent metaphysics that makes absolutely no sense, that everything is reflections of nothing. There is no pure form, essence. There is no thing. There is nothing. And so it's insane, but if you read it as essentially a sociological fairy tale, then it's like, oh, this is just true. This is just completely true about a modern world. Okay, got it. So I would put him at maybe B. He might be A as a sociologist.
As a sociologist, he's A tier, but as a philosopher, he's
but he's less influential than Maritain, and I think he's less easily understood. Like, I have seen people explain Baudrillard to me, or I think they've explained him correctly to me in more coherent terms than Baudrillard himself. Certainly, I would not be able to understand, like, I don't know, a quarter of the content of the Gulf War did not take place if the introduction wasn't written better than what Baudrillard himself wrote in a more easily understood prose.
Yeah, well, on a point of influence, I mean, his book is basically the inspiration for The Matrix. That's inspiration, and it's like he's very influential on modern culture.
Yeah, that's true. He does actually have a huge influence in a lot of modern
his book
stuff.
His book is in the movie, and one of the chapters of his book is one of the lines Morpheus says to Neo, and so it's I want to go B tier. What do y'all think?
Sure. So I think for coining the term hyperreality alone, I want to knock him down to C tier because it drives the idea, and it very much is prescient of modern times, and I think it's very apropos of what the world is right now. But I also hate it, so I want to bump him down to C.
I love it. I say B.
B.
All right,
B tier. Okay, Edward Fazo.
So love Fazer, love his work. My biggest issue here is original contributions. I think he's an excellent academic. He is an excellent exegist, as you mentioned previously for Maritain.
A great blogger.
He might have some fantastic stuff that isn't, that is original. And again, there's no problem with just having really good content and being an excellent proponent and advocate and speaker about scholasticism. I don't know how much of his own good original contributions he's made. I haven't seen anything.
Yeah. I would say when it comes to like easiness of reading him, he is like out of everyone on our list, I think he's the easiest person to read.
And he explains a lot in very clear language. That is all true. Is there anything? Yeah. I don't know. He's a great explainer. He might be one of the best explainers I've read. So that rates him highly. But is that just a C? Are we just going to end up with everyone on B? Is that?
I'm going to feel weird if you put Descartes above Fazer. I'm going to feel weird about that.
I'm okay with putting Descartes above Fazer.
I'm as well.
Because I mean, Descartes, even just his mathematical contributions, most of their. I mean, just the Cartesian plane, it puts him above most other people.
Yeah, I keep forgetting I don't care about math, and so I keep forgetting about his mathematical contributions.
But also, like, imagine Descartes had never been born and what the world would be like, and imagine Ed Fazer had never been born and what the world would be like. Like, just in terms of influence, it is night and day.
Yeah. What do you think? C tier?
I think C.
Yeah, C.
Jean-Jacques Rousseau.
Oh man.
So I know the church doesn't officially condemn anyone to hell, but I think we can all sort of agree.
Yeah, I think we all kind of agree on that one.
I was going, purgatory or hell, because I'm like, do I care about Rousseau? It's like he sucks. But he sucks. Hell, just put him there.
Like all the things we said about Descartes, and again, he's one of the three reformers that Maritain cites as being sort of responsible for the modern world, but without any of the redeeming qualities of like clarity of thought or important, like valuable contributions that Descartes had. Like he was very influential in all the worst ways.
Yeah, and I don't find him very impressive. as
No.
really
No.
anything.
You
I
ever read
don't know.
his book on education after he abandoned his second kid? It's not good.
Oh, and again, very influential because that's still sort of the foundation of modern pedagogical theory.
Yeah.
But it's also what's
Yeah.
wrong with modern pedagogy. Like it's just
Yeah.
he is so influential in all the worst possible ways. Like he might as like you could replace him with an actual demon and have about the same results. So I'm
New series. So was this possessed and been burst to death?
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. Okay.
Yep.
Let's put it. Yeah. Sure.
Okay, not a philosopher, but Jordan Peterson.
I'm in different purgatory. That's what I say.
Yeah,
'Cause, like,
I lean towards purgatory as well. Like he's neat, but it's nothing original.
I like Jungian stuff. I've read a bit of Maps of Meaning. I found it neat. It's interesting. But like, I don't know, man. He's like, because there's too much of Peterson personality for even, I guess, us to evaluate most of his work, quote unquote. Because his work is not just the free main books he's published. I'm sure what Maps of Meaning, 12 Rules for Life, and the Ever 12 Rules.
Beyond.
That's
beyond
the main
order.
free book. So 2 of them are basically very sophisticated self-help books.
Yeah.
And one of
Maps
them
of
is
Meaning.
a
I like
very
Maps of Meaning.
academic. Yeah, Maps of Meaning. I didn't read all of it, but it was very good.
Hmm.
But that's very Jungian stuff. And I'm kind of like, it's cool, but I don't really care. It's like, I don't know.
What do you think?
I saw the meme the other day that it was like, somewhere out there is the world's dumbest genius.
Yes.
And that also means somewhere out there's the most brilliant retard. Like they should have a podcast together. It's just a picture of Jordan Peterson on Joe Rogan Experience. And I thought that was just so perfect.
Yeah.
I stick him in purgatory. Like he's the most milquetoast, uninteresting intellectual, like prominent, well followed intellectual in the history of intellectuals. Like he's just.
Yeah.
I'm not interested in anything he has to say philosophically.
I also genuinely think if he feels like he lives in purgatory, man. Like he feels like he's gonna have a mental breakdown every time he speaks, and I just wanted to like get help. I don't know. He stopped
like some kind of limbo thing. Like he's just there's sort of just this place that we sort of set him aside until we can figure out what to do with. Like the universe is just sort of setting him aside until it figures out what it wants to do with him.
Yeah, exactly.
He needs to convert or stop talking. That's my opinion.
Yeah, he
needs to convert and stop.
You need to shut up and live in a monastery for like 5 years.
I said I was talking with Matt Erickson about this, and I said if Peterson said I'm going to go away for 2 years and he went and lived in a monastery and came back, he would be going. I think if his comeback would be incredible if he spent time with monks in a monastery for 2 years. Yes. He would come back and be incredible. He needs to take a break and then kind of reassess and get things in order.
Quiet reflection, some humility, and a good collection of the church fathers to read would make him into something a pretty powerful force for good.
I think if he read René Girard, I think he would be really close from there. Like I think he would really benefit from reading people like René Girard.
Sure. Yeah.
So purgatory, we're on agreement.
Yeah, he really does. He is in purgatory, I think, in his life.
Sam Harris.
I mean, I think he should
Saint
be
Harris.
Yeah, Saint Harris. I just think I don't even know the name of the fucking book. I was about to make a joke with it, but I can't even do it. What is the name of his goddamn book, man?
Waking Up, more landscape. God
Moral
is not great.
Landscape. That was the one. I was like, because I remember reading reviews of Moral Landscape by like actual philosophers.
I read that book.
None of it was good.
I read that book. My philosophy. First time I read philosophy, where I tried to read Kant because Ben Shapiro suggested it, and I felt stupid. And then I read Sam Harris and realized I'm not stupid.
Oh man,
Harris is another one that I'm so in like. I can't imagine him saying something and me feeling a need to respond to it, like positive or negative. Like he's another one, like he's very much in that Peterson category, but I just don't care. I
think we got to put him in hell on physiognomy alone. I mean, just look at him. On just based on looks alone, I want to put him in hell.
I don't like looks are like it's not again. It's just bland. I'm just uninterested.
Mm-hmm.
I would lean purgatory. I'm okay with hell, but I don't care enough
because he's like. He doesn't even have his retardation doesn't even have the influence of Rousseau. So he can't even argue that. He's just like, I don't know, he's a nothing. He's He's a nothing.
Okay.
He is an empty philosophical suit.
Yes. Aristotle.
Yeah, I put him saint.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
do
I don't know
do
what there's to say about
We don't
this.
need to
Like,
explain how great he is. He's
Do I need to-
he's the philosopher.
Yeah.
This Roman thank you.
I don't feel like I need to argue that one. I feel like he
I
goes
don't
in
need-
S
my-
tier.
Remind me when we get to Plato to bring up something about Plato and a saint. I want to save that. I found something really cool about Plato recently, but I want to save it for when we get to him. So someone
Okay.
remind me to bring that up. Okay, fun one. Nick Land.
I quite like his rating, but he is
Me
clearly insane.
He is insane, and that's why I like him. And so I want to put him in B tier just for how much fun he is to read. And I feel like if they put Baudrillard there, Nick Land is very Baudrillardian. I cannot how you say it.
Yeah, I'd put him on the same rank as Baudrillard. I think that's
me
fair.
too.
He has
his recent Christian bent has been just as insane as everything else, but also very entertaining.
It has
Yes.
been. What reminds me was when he gets more into the Bible, he's agreed to come on for you and I talking about the Bible. So I have to remind Dad that he's agreed to come on, but he wants to finish at least half the Bible first. So we'll get him right at the end of the Old Testament, and we'll get him for the New Testament.
That is interesting. Okay.
So it's something to keep in mind, I guess.
I'm
Who
gonna
knows,
take,
who knows if it will happen, but if it
I'm
does
gonna
happen,
need to
that would be
reread
pretty
the Old
awesome.
Testament. Okay, got it.
Yeah,
Good to know.
I'm going to read all the church fathers and Kant by the time I say this.
Fair enough. Okay. Yeah, Mr. Land, if you ever watch this, you are firmly in B tier. Please come on the show.
Yes, you become a Catholic. To become Catholic, we'll put you in A tier.
Please become. Yeah, we will put you on A tier. Please, sir, come on the show.
Woodson Dawkins,
Purgatory.
Purgatory.
It's philosophical work. I'm sure, like the mimetic theory is interesting, but I think Roger Scruton has critiqued it enough in that book review that we never finished, Caleb, on human nature. But it wasn't part one. The critique wasn't part one. So the critique of the philosophical critique of the mimetic theory is that it doesn't describe anything real. It describes essentially a figurative understanding that is useful for predicting human behavior. But it's a great example of scientific anti-realism. That is, the things that are being described by science don't have any real essences of themselves. If they're just useful for predicting behavior, given the hypothesis that they are real. So the mimetic theory is certainly interesting. It might even be indicative of something deeper in human psychology, which I think it is, but it's not real. It's just, it's clearly not. There aren't parcels of ideas which are basically idea parasites. That would be an insane view to take. And I don't think Dawkins takes that view.
No, I find it interesting though, putting kind of like the modern people in the purgatory. Besides Bezos, people, these like modern intellectuals have all gone in purgatory.
I can almost see bumping him up to C tier because, again, like Phaser, his big contribution is he's sort of the atheist version of Phaser in a lot of ways. Like he's very eloquent, very well spoken.
Yes,
can defend his ideas exceptionally well, or can defend ideas very well. I don't think again not a lot of original contribution that I'm particularly fond of.
Yeah.
I think the things like the mimetic theory, I think again useful for understanding society, terrible if you want to try and understand how the world actually works. So I could see bumping him into C if we wanted to. I'm also happy with Purgatory.
Yeah, I can see C and I can see Purgatory because at the same time, any of his philosophical stuff is like his refutation of the 5 ways of Aquinas means he doesn't understand the very basics of what Aquinas is talking about. But he is a very good explainer, and he's certainly, from what I gather at least, a good biologist. I'm certainly no biologist. I can't.
Yeah.
This
is a philosophy tier list, so I was kind of.
As a philosopher, I would put him on Purgatory because I don't even.
Yeah.
It's a selfish gene because the mimetics is presented in, I believe, a biology book. It's presented in the selfish gene, if I remember correctly. So it's presented as a sort of genetic information theory to a certain degree.
Yeah.
Or at least a variation of it.
I'm leaning Purgatory. I think so. We're all kind of stuck between C and Purgatory. So what do y'all just want to decide?
It sounds like you guys are both leaning Purgatory, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I'm leaning on Purgatory.
Purgatory. Ludwig Wittgenstein.
I put him on A. Easily, because his big thing, but one of the reasons why he's famous is that he sort of shadows the entire Cartesian conception of the mind from his arguments. That he just says it's not this separation between body mind isn't really possible. The separation between phenomenon and noumenon doesn't appear to be even conceivably possible from rationalistic premises, or not from rationalistic premises, but from the very grammar of our language and from speech propositions, from what we can talk about, from what it is to have a pain, how do you describe yourself, and how that's not necessarily autobiographical like a detail, because you can't be wrong about having a pain, like you can be wrong about the fact that there was a chair in your room at X date. So very different types of categories, autobiography and the first person phenomenon, and first person phenomenon is inherently linked to your body. And then the private language argument is a great argument against solipsism. I think we went over this. Scruton had a very small version of it, a short summary of it in Human Nature. If you still have sexual desire, that book, which I originally came on the show to review, that we never will. It's if you read Appendix A, Scruton has a more elaborate version of that argument and the possible metaphysical consequences of it. The private language argument. So it's very interesting. I actually need to reread that appendix.
I want to put him in A just because I think he's analytic philosophy is fun. I like his arguments, but also because the only way his book got published was because Bertrand Russell, his friend and professor, agreed to write the introduction for him. And then Bertrand Russell said, "Yes, thanks, dude, but you didn't understand anything I said. It kind of contradicted everything I said." Just because of that reaction and response, I kind of want to put him in A tier just because of that.
Wait, did Wittgenstein say that to Russell?
Yes.
Oh, okay, that's hilarious. Because
Yeah.
I know the funny thing is the philosophical investigations. Wittgenstein doesn't seem to believe this in the preface of the philosophical investigations, but pretty much everyone agrees that he personally, when he was talking, from what I can gather is the biographical details and from just the content, he basically violently disagrees with the earlier Tractatus of like 20 years earlier.
He does. I find really interesting that he wrote his first book, and then he was sorry, okay, I'm done. I solved all the problems of philosophy. And then while in like a prison camp, he talked to other philosophers and realized, I guess I didn't, and had to keep writing. So I like that. I like that kind of attitude. So I'm gonna. Ian, what do you think? A tier?
The Chad move of writing one book, being like, I finished philosophy.
Yes, it's dude.
That is so just epically Chad that it's got to be A tier.
I love it so much because I think he ends his book, the Tractatus, with he basically says that all the problems of philosophy are actually problems of language, and he really is a brilliant linguist and mathematician, and so he's very good at linguistic analysis. So he basically makes the argument that it's all problems of language, and what we can do in philosophy is, but we can't really speak of it. They're inherent to our language, to the very ambiguities inherent in language itself. Therefore, we cannot speak of any of these problems because they're ultimately problems of language. Therefore, where we cannot speak, we ought to be silent. And then he ends the book and then he's like, I'm done. I solved philosophy. And it's so awesome. And it's like an incredibly short book. It's like 150 pages. It's incredibly short. So that's even more awesome. And it's not like this big book. It's not Being and Nothingness of Sartre, which is this giant tome. It's a short, slim volume. It's so hilarious. It's so awesome. I love it.
Also, he was cousins to Friedrich Hayek, which I always found neat. I just find that kind of interesting.
And in a sense, he is indirectly responsible for, I think, repopularizing some of philosophical studies of St. John Cardinal Newman, because Uncertainty, a lot of it was written by the influence of Cardinal Newman, who was not alive at the time, but at the time was studied in England as one of the first philosophers to really take grammar and language seriously as it impacts the mind. And was essentially studied as a very early forebear of the analytic school. And he wasn't a saint at the time, so he did have conversations with a priest. He did live with the Catholic couple, Peter Geach and Elizabeth Anscombe. So he certainly had some influence there. And I think you can sort of see that he has a softening up. He certainly had a big softening up, I think, towards religion after the Tractatus.
Yeah, and also, wasn't he? I believe he was raised Catholic. I know he had a Jewish mother, but I believe his dad was Catholic, and he was raised Catholic.
Oh, I don't know about that. I don't know any of his early life. I didn't do an early life check on Wittgenstein. I was sorry to say.
He is one of the few. One of those weird Jewish Catholics.
Oh yeah, we know another one, don't we?
Yes, we do. Well, not Catholic. He's not Catholic yet.
Oh yeah,
start on that.
On the road, on the road to Damascus, let's say.
So everyone agreement on A tier?
Yeah.
Okay. Immanuel Kant.
He's
a tricky one.
the most
needs-
violent disagreement we're going to have in this. I can tell already.
Yeah, I think so. I would put him at least B. I'm almost tempted to put him on A, but I'm not going to push my luck, I think. Or maybe I should push my luck, and then I can actually get him above purgatory.
No, there's no way Khan goes in purgatory.
Yeah, that's true. Okay. Well, fair enough. I would go B at least.
I think you can't deny his influence, so I think he has to go beat. He has to go. He has to go above purgatory on influence alone.
I also
But
think
on his ideals, he's
way better. His arguments are way more sophisticated and complicated than Descartes, and way better than Hume.
yes.
Certainly way better than Hume. I would have a high respect for him as a philosopher compared to Hume.
Hume was Hume was it? Yeah, Hume was the is-ought gap guy, right? I mean,
Yeah.
and
Is-ought gap and no causation exists guy, which is the most fucking insane idea I have ever heard.
Hume's gonna be a fun one to do. I do not have enough. I have not read Kant enough to have any strong feelings about where he goes.
I can't put him on C because Ed Phaser, as much as I love him, is there. I can't put Ed Phaser and then Kant. Yeah, they're on the same level, guys. Don't worry. It's like at least if we put him in hell, Rousseau is there, and Rousseau is famous. Purgatory, yeah, it's Jordan B. Peterson, Sam Harris, Dawkins, and Kant. The four horsemen of the apocalypse. He needs to go either A, B, or hell. There is no other options.
I will agree with that, but as another great philosopher that we'll get to in a moment, Saint Ayn Rand notes that Kant is probably the most evil man that has ever lived.
I love Rand. I can't hate him. I can't. I can't hate him. I should, but I can't.
Well, I would put him on B.
So I completely agree with Bulge's logic. C and purgatory are just out of the question. For me, it's a decision between B and hell, and I'm so tempted to just drop him into hell.
I'd say because so let's compare him to the other denizen of hell, Rousseau. I think his arguments are way better than Rousseau. He has had some positive impact on epistemology in the sense that you're way more skeptical of the science TM under Kant, and he's generated way more interesting philosophical commentary on aesthetics, on epistemology, on metaphysics, despite his pernicious influence, than Rousseau. He's just more interesting, and he's led to more interesting followers and disciples, some who have contributed good things, than Rousseau. So I would say he can't be in hell, because if our standard is Rousseau, he's better than Rousseau. Ergo, he needs to go B.
I don't think Rousseau's like the top of hell, right? Like you have people on hell and have Rousseau beneath them.
He's right outside the gates, like with Plato and Socrates, like Dante says. He's just right outside the gates.
So the categorical imperative kind of drives me crazy.
Yes.
I will yield to B if for no other reason than he is much more interesting than any of the people below him.
Okay.
Yeah, that's true. And I think he really did see a problem in the philosophy of his age, and he did try to solve it. He didn't take it for granted. I mean, after a certain point, this was like later in life. This was in, I think, late 30s, early 40s, something like that, where he said he awoke from his dogmatic slumber. And he did sort of realize that there was this big gap or this big problem with Hume's empiricism and Leibniz's rationalism. Although I think I've read some Leibniz, and he's like basically, I've seen people say Leibniz is basically a scholastic, and he kind of is. I mean, to the point that Phaser uses Leibniz's argument for God in the Five Roots of God, and it meshes perfectly with the other scholastic arguments that he proposes. So Leibniz actually had quite a bit of Catholic theology on him, and we'd say he's more correct than Kant, certainly. But he did see a problem with, let's say, something like Spinoza's rationalism and Hume's empiricism, and he did attempt to solve it, whereas Rousseau is just an idiot.
Yeah, I want to say the story on Kant real quick. I found this is from Scamaz. Is that how you say it? The guy out here, Spartan something.
Okay.
This is a tweet he commented, and I think it's kind of funny. Immanuel Kant drank a lot of coffee when he didn't have a lot of coffee. When he didn't have a cup,
I know this.
A cup for a while, he became distraught and would cry, "I am drowning." This was a sign for a servant to bring him a new cup of coffee. And when he saw it arriving, he would cry, "Land, my dear friends, land."
Yeah, I've heard of this before. I'm not sure how true it is because I've never been provided a source, but I have seen it on 4chan. And also,
Yes.
hi, I think what's his name? What's his account name? Because I know his real account name.
He's changed his account name, so I don't know if he's going publicly or not.
Yeah, I know his name because I know his real account on Twitter.
Yeah, the emo Hopian. He commented that thing under his real account name, so I think we could go by that. So
okay, so Joe, I guess Joe Britton, right? Is that his real name?
I think that's his real name. That's what his account one is, at least.
Yes. So Joe, I think you can appreciate that at least I am defending the honor of Kant here to some extent. I quite like his stuff on aesthetics, and I quite like Roger Scrude, and I even have some. I shouldn't even say this, as I think I'll be excommunicated as a heretic, but I do have some admiration for Hegel and Schopenhauer. So I do actually quite like Kant, despite the fact that I disagree with him on epistemology and metaphysics.
We got some cool comments here, apparently.
I forgot about his influence on Hegel. I want to drop him right back down to hell again.
Yeah, I shouldn't have brought that up. That was probably a tactical mistake there.
Real quick, we got a comment here. Hopper gets a little dark in NBC.
Oh yeah, that's true. That's true. Oh man, do we have to consider the meme?
I think we have to consider the meme.
It wouldn't be Caleb, I think.
Yeah, I can't. I can't. There are two philosophers on this list that are super wrong, but there's so much fun to read about that I can't put them in hell. And that's Kant and Bertrand Russell. Not Kant.
If we have to consider mimetic legacy, such as Hoppe's Little Dark Age, which does put him at least C, then we end up with the problem that maybe Phaser has to be bumped up, just because my favorite meme of all time is like the history of philosophy according to people who are correct. It's like Aristotle and Aquinas solve everything, then Descartes is born and there is a great dark age, and then finally with the birth of Edward Phaser, perfect most of the story. Which is my favorite. It's one of my favorite things I've ever seen on Twitter. I love it so much. I'm actually gonna try to find it. Oh man, fantastic. I love it.
Okay, here we go. Next one, John Locke.
He sucks.
Someone I would have put higher 3 or 4 years ago, and he's just gone down and down and down.
Instantly purgatory, because does he have anything interesting?
Lockean landownership, and I think rights, that kind of stuff. But there was this made up. Lockean landownership is super boring and fake.
His theory of the human mind is just like, it's stupid.
I've never heard of theory of the mind. What is it?
Extremely empirical.
Hell.
It's basically, I mean, but the thing is, I'm not even sure it was like influential enough, and he's not like evil from what I remember. So like, I don't know. I'm completely indifferent to him because he isn't even the best exponent, as far as I'm aware, of the empiricist theory of the human mind. Like people don't reply to him; they reply to like someone like Paul. I mean, that would be the materialist, I suppose. But I can't even summarize it because I've seen so little commentary on it. But I remember reading about it. It's very pretty much the progenitor of the modern empiricist approach to the theory of the mind, the theory of sensations, that ideas are just phantasms and whatever. So yeah, just purgatory. I don't find him interesting at all from what I've read. Yeah, I did manage to find an 18th century edition of his works, published in the 18th century in an auction for I don't know, $80. So I do have it, and I read a bit of it, but it's not very interesting. It's just a cool old book.
That's one of my favorites. Like you and I both have this thing happen where we have really old first editions of books people we don't care about. Like I had a first edition of a Lockhart book, and you have an 18th century Locke book, and it's like, yeah, I don't care about it, but it's neat.
Like 8th edition. It's like the 8th edition, but the 8th edition of a 400-year-old book or 300 and something.
Impressive.
It's pretty impressive. I do have some books I care about, but they're all in French, and I currently have forgotten all my French, so I can't read it. I have Pascal Spencer's in French, and it's like French? Not from like the 16th, 17th.
No, but still
like
French.
1780s.
You gotta learn French just to read that. You know, yeah, you learn French.
I am considering going.
Pascal is someone I didn't put on this list, but if he was on this list, I put him in the same tier because I fucking love Pascal.
I need to read more Pascal.
He's so awesome.
Like a very little I've read.
Dude, the best way to read Pascal is to get Peter Kree's commentary, where he has all of Pascal, but he also has his own paragraphs attached to each line from Pascal.
Pascal
it's just
basically
incredible.
created probability theory, which I think would earn him hell. He basically created combinatorics. So
But he also,
instantly hell.
he's also the only contemporary of Descartes and only like real enlightened philosopher to not be awful, in my opinion.
Well,
Like he-
I did put Kant in B. He's an enlightened philosopher.
Yeah. Okay, so Locke, what are y'all saying? Purgatory?
I don't care
C
about
or
that.
like I don't want to put him in purgatory just because I think he is so far above the purgatory candidates. Like,
Sam Harrison, John Locke, yeah.
No, this would be fitting because I think Ed Fez write a book on Locke, so I think that would kind of
He
fit in
did.
to put him in the same
Oh, yeah,
category.
that's true. I should read that. I'm actually curious.
I
Because
want to read his book on Nozick. He has a book on
He-
Nozick I want to
did-
read.
I'm not that interested in Nozick. Actually, Nozick is a good enough writer, but like, I don't know. Maybe I should read it just because Nozick is a somewhat interesting figure, and I would like to hear some refutations because of some of his arguments. But some of them are very interesting. But I should kind of read Nozick one point. But he also writes extensively, and I'm not sure he's interesting enough for it. When did he write Locke? Had he already converted John Locke, Edward Phaser? When did he write that book? Because I'm interested to see if he was already.
I know it got reviewed by the Mises Institute. It's a very good book.
Oh, he
And-
published it, as far as I'm aware. Oh, no, this is the Brazilian. Oh, is this Brazilian? No, it's not. Okay, it's just in Brazilian market. It seems it was published in 2007, so he definitely had converted to Catholicism by then. So that's interesting. Yeah, okay.
So CTO?
2007.
I'm
It's
good
C
with
or
C.
Purgatory. I lean Purgatory, but if you guys go see it, I'm fine.
I know. I'll leave it to you. What do you think?
I'd say C.
See?
Okay.
CTO. Okay. David Hume.
So to be a little bit fair, I've actually read the is ought thing in the original, and it's a lot milder than the idiots that try and quote it all the time. Like it's and maybe he gets worse at some point, but it's not as terrible as everyone like that espouses it makes it sound.
His causation is worse than
Yes.
people make it sound if you read the original. I remember reading some of his work. I forget when, but it was in university, and it's well written. He is a stylist, and he does have a bit of wit and humor. But as Anscombe says, he is a mere brilliant sophist. So I would not put him in hell, but he was a heretic. So
I
not
tried,
a heretic, I suppose. An
I
apostate.
tried yesterday to read a Hume book, like his and I couldn't get through it. And I tried to read a book on Hume, and I couldn't get through that either. This details of his own personal life. Like apparently, what made him fall in love with philosophy was him believing he found a flaw in the first way from Aquinas, and that was like his big jumping point to finally be interested in philosophy. And his whole argument is, well, what caused God?
Oh my!
And so I want to put him in hell just for that.
Instantly hell. You don't understand act potency.
I think he
Off
might have been
to
one of the
hell.
early guys to do that too. So I can pin that on him. I think.
I think he's important, and I think Anscombe says again he is a brilliant sophist. He doesn't seem to have been a bad guy. He seems to have actually been rather mild.
He's very
in
nice.
his own
He's
beliefs.
Hume was the guy who was from Adam Smith and it got taken advantage of by Rousseau, right? Am I saying that? Was it Hume?
Yeah. Yes.
I get Hume and Hegel confused for Noah's wisdom for the name both starts with H.
Fair enough, I suppose. Yeah, he did get abused by him a lot. What else do I know of him? He was friends with Adam Smith. He seems to have been fine on political philosophy but very short stuff. I think he wrote some very short stuff on economics that's like very basic but true.
Yeah.
What else? His theory of causation is terrible, but it raises interesting points. He was always an agnostic. He was never an atheist. He was actually shocked when he went to France and found out all the intellectuals were like rabid atheists. And his reaction, from what I read of a biography of him and Adam Smith, it was actually a biography of their friendship together, was that his reaction was, I need to get the fuck out of here. These people are crazy. So I do have some
Maybe
affection.
not hell. I like that. He might go above hell for me now.
Yeah, he was like, because he was like in like basically a symposium, right? Like a 18th century version of a symposium, and he was celebrated as a philosopher at that time, especially in France. France has always had a thing for philosophers and celebrating them as basically actors and celebrities. So he went there and met a bunch of eminent people, and they asked him about his belief in God. He was like, well, of course, the reasonable position, you've read my work, is obviously agnosticism. Like, I can't say either way. I can't conclude from my own theories. And they all say, and then he asked, like, how many of you are atheists? Because the question kind of gave him that impression. And like 24 or 27 people raised their hands proudly. And he was like, these people are fucking insane. I need to get out of here. These are crazy people. Awesome. So that was always, but only that and the Rousseau thing always stuck in my mind. So I do have an affection for him.
Yeah. Ian, what do you think?
I think that the same way we sort of said Jordan Peterson was like, it was in limbo until the universe knew what to do with him. I feel like all Hume needs is like a couple hundred years in a cleansing fire and he'll be good to go. So purgatory just seems perfect for me.
I can agree with that.
I tried, Mr. Hume. I tried. Well, we'll leave you there.
Jean-Paul Sartre. I read him a little bit, and my favorite quote about him is I think Peter Crave said, God sent Jean-Paul Sartre as a prophet to the cave of atheism to send all atheists screaming madly towards God.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, I remember I recently read Existentialism as a Humanism for a class, or reread it, I suppose. And I was just reflecting on it. This is basically atheist Jordan Peterson. It's really funny. I have to say this because it's like, he's basically saying his very basic premise is like, so if we existentialists, atheist existentialists, because he admits there are some Christian existentialists, although they wouldn't call themselves that, like Gabriel Marcel, who was a Catholic, who converted to Catholicism in like his 40s. And he basically says, well, in our view, existence precedes essence for man. Man is the only creature, or at least man is one creature we know which has to define himself. I would say this represents a very basic misunderstanding of what essence is for everyone before him. But anyway, it's like, so man has to define his own essence. That means that man is ultimately responsible for all of his actions. And you then can't say, oh, I would have done better if, I wasn't born in a shitty situation, or I should have been born a hero. I should have, but I'm born a hero, but I'm born a coward. You can't blame that. No, you define yourself. So you're responsible for everything. So stop complaining. That's the main thesis of existentialism as a humanism. I'm, disproved. Disregarding a lot of stuff. It was like, this is just atheist Jordan Peterson, which amused me greatly. I found that really funny.
I think the way I've always seen him is kind of has a later atheist Augustine. I think that's just like how do I put this? To Augustine, I think it was that quote from Dostoevsky where it was if God exists, oh my god, it's this quote on the if God. Let me just find it real quick because I'm gonna butcher if I don't. Wait, never spelled Dostoevsky, so thank God for autocorrect. Well, it gave me a hairless cat because I'm that bad at spelling. The Donsky, the Donskoy, is a hairless cat breed.
Oh, that's good to know. If God exists, is that the quote?
Yeah, I think that's the quote. Yeah.
If God does not exist, everything is permitted.
Yeah, that's the quote.
Okay.
If you can find it. You want to find it. Yeah. Thank you. My spelling is god awful.
All right. Well, where were we? I got distracted by the hairless cat breed.
I found another picture of Sartre, and I'm distracted by his eyes.
Yes. Oh, it's a funny story. I had a photo of him up on my phone. As we researched him, my dad walked by at work and went, "What the hell is wrong with that guy?" And I have only heard my dad curse like 9 times in my life, and that was one of them.
He's actually he looks like a kind of a Nazi officer. He's actually fairly handsome as like a young army officer. But his eyes are even as a young man, his eyes are a bit weird. But when he gets older, he's truly hideous.
Okay, I found it. If God does not exist, everything is permissible. And if God does exist, only I can't. No, that's not it. I can't find a second. Okay, whatever. No, I give up. I'm giving up on that one. Screw it. It's over. But anyway, it's like Augustine's whole thing is like, well, God does exist, so there has to be a way. You have to act a certain way because God does exist. And it's other part talks like God does not exist. Therefore, you have to act however you really want. And it's just I think an interesting like parallel between the two. And Creef's
It's not just even how you really want. It's how you have. Yeah, it's how you want, but you have the responsibility to define morality for yourself. And he says for all men. I don't think that follows from at least his argument in existentialism and humanism. Maybe he develops it in a coherent way where if you accept his premises, then the conclusion follows. But in existentialism as a humanism, which I believe was a lecture or something, and which was published in a newspaper or a magazine. He doesn't make, I think, the logical connection, but he essentially says that there's almost a categorical imperative about whatever you will the good. So he has that part right of human ontology and human nature. So therefore, if you will the good, you do actually will the good as for everything else that is a man, which to me seems like an implicit acceptance of existence and essence are predefined, but whatever. So that becomes an issue for Sartre there, but he makes this connection of from particular to the universal. So he has some things right there, but his metaphysics is overall not very good, is what I have to say.
Yeah, one thing I know about him that I was reading about him yesterday because I've been going through Creef's history of philosophy, and he has a very good job outlining a philosopher's like personal life. And Sartre was absolutely terrible to women, and he was basically a French philosopher version of Harvey Weinstein.
Yeah, from what I gather, yeah.
And his feminist girlfriend was also the one who helped him find a woman. They were lifelong lovers. He abused her constantly, and when he died, he adopted some random chick he banged once and left her all the money.
I mean, that's basically, I think, the healthiest French relationship of the 20th century.
Maybe.
Actually, well, Camus did seem to love his children.
And Maritain is
if Maritain had not found Catholicism, you'd be correct. But.
Well, didn't they both become basically oblates and swore off sex and live in separate houses towards the end of their life?
I know that I don't know towards the end of their life. Maybe when they were like 70 or something. Did they have children? I'm pretty sure they had children, right?
From my understanding, they might have had some. From my understanding, Maritain went to go live with the monks, and Steve went to go live with the nuns. On the same
go live with monks, but I only remember they had two children, John and Jacques. From where
I think Creef talks about it.
No.
His chapter. I'm saying find it.
Jacques Maritain, did he have children? Anyway, I do know that towards after Haïssa died, but he did basically live with monks. But this was afterwards. I remember reading about it. He joined I got kicked accidentally.
What?
I got kicked accidentally. Do send him an invite. There he goes.
There we go.
But he was living with monks in the last 10 years of his life or something when he was 80 after Haïssa had died.
Okay, because the way I've heard conflicting accounts of his of what happened there, but from some accounts I've heard, him and his wife basically became like brother and sister instead of married, and they went and lived with, he lived with nuns and he lived with the monks. But
it might have been
some accounts.
Yeah, if that sounds more probable that it was towards the end of her life, because I know they lived together for most of it, and they had to take care of each other at one point, because I think one was sick, the other was healthy, and that's happened several times.
He's also the one who introduced him to Thomism, because her priest friend, who was their spiritual director, recommended Thomism to her first, and then she gave it to him.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. I see. I really think that would be a very fun book, like a history book on their relationship would be very fun. I think
that would be interesting.
Yeah, because I think their influence on each other is both very neat. Also, I've never read her poetry, but I really want to. And in fact, he hosted Thomas Aquinas meetups in France, and St. Edithstein went to a bunch of them. It's also really cool because I would love to hear their conversations.
It was from 1961. So his wife died in 1960, and then in 1961, Maritain moved in with the Little Brothers of Jesus in Toulouse, France. But before that, he was basically from 45 to 48, he was a French ambassador to the Holy See, which is impressive. And then he also taught in Princeton. He taught in where else did he taught? He taught, I believe, did he teach in Harvard? He gave lectures, Columbia University, University of Chicago, University of Notre Dame, University of Princeton. So these are some universities where he taught. So he was in America for a bit.
Anyway, back to Sartre, because we kind of got way off topic.
Yep. Yeah.
What C tier?
I like him C.
C.
Yeah, I guess.
Okay, C tier. I haven't read enough of him to argue. I just from looking at him and what I do know about him, I would place him lower, but I haven't read him enough to actually comment.
I think him and Hume should switch places, but whatever. Whatever. Plato,
Okay.
you said Plato right
Plato,
now, right?
yes. Plato,
you said
one Plato.
something interesting.
Yeah, so there apparently there was a saint. I don't know if he was I only saw this in like a few tweets and stuff. I never really looked into it more. So it might have been an Orthodox saint. But apparently there was some saint who would curse Plato every day before he went to bed. And at one point he had a dream, or a Plato appeared to him, has sent from heaven by God to get him to stop. And so according to this saint's account, Plato was in heaven. So he went from being like the biggest hater of Plato to being a Platonist based on Plato appearing before him, sent by God from heaven. So I don't know if that actually happened or not. I need to look more into it, but that story alone is very interesting to me.
I remember that there are some murals, very old, probably like 1300s or something, or maybe I'm making this up. This came to me in a dream or something. But where Aristotle and Plato are actually depicted with halos because they were.
If I remember correctly from this, it's like Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle all depicted with green halos because they were prophets before Christ, kind of saying. Like they all kind of got the
I've heard that before with halos. Let me see if is there anything because. I'm not going to be able to find it right now, but if I didn't dream this up, then that's an interesting interpretation to me, at least. But I really like Plato. He's great.
Plato was anything like Socrates, and he also worshipped God without knowing it, or basically we rationally deduced all of God's attributes and essences. So I mean, Plato's got to go in saint tier, right? Everyone kind of agrees.
I'd say saint tier. I mean, what was it that Whitehead said? All of Western philosophy is footnotes to Plato. He's mostly right.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I mean, I love
it. Plato has phenomenology. Plato has, if you look at Plato, he kind of has the postmodernism interpretation of the philosophical text because you can't really tell where he's making gay jokes or where he's sort of tacitly endorsing homosexuality. And you have to realize that there's a context, like these are characters in a context having a dialogue. I know that there's a book, I think, by John Sallis, Being and Logos, I believe, which argues essentially for this, that Plato had this intention as an interpretation to add a certain ambiguity to the text to sort of reflect the difficulty of getting to the truth, but not to deny the truth exists.
It's very similar to this is actually kind of a tangent, but Kierkegaard loves Socrates, and Kierkegaard, when he writes, he often has multiple narrators contradicting each other to put the emphasis on the individual to seek out the truth through the text. And if that was kind of Socrates' Socratic method, was to get someone else to seek truth through questioning. I think his whole epistemology of the soul remembers is a clever way of saying, no, I'm getting you to think about this too. And so I think if that kind of reading of Socrates and Kierkegaard, I think Plato kind of does the same thing with his text.
I feel like that is a valid interpretation of Plato, which I do lean towards myself.
Same. I mean, I love Aristotle. I think he's more correct, but Plato is just my favorite philosopher. I think I've read all of Plato at least once, and I'm going through it for the second time in order now.
He's a more fun writer, and also was a big wrestler, so that's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, Plato. I think Plato translates to like a big stone.
Yeah, Platon translates to broad shouldered.
Yeah, he's basically the Greek version of the Rock. If he, I
believe Diogenes Laertius said his real name was not Plato, but that was his wrestling nickname that he stuck with.
That's awesome.
Which is awesome.
Only philosopher with a wrestling name on here. That's not really a saint here.
That's really awesome.
It's also since we obviously, I mean, I don't want to speak for you, but saint tier, right?
Yeah, I mean, like I would put him at like low end saint tier, maybe top of A tier. His role or his connection to Hermeticism kind of bugs me a little bit. I hate having to try and articulate anything about the Platonic realm of forms, especially when we're talking about like Aristotelian philosophy. So like, having to deal with Plato irritates me a lot, but it's hard to put him anywhere. Like if he's not in the very, very, very top of A tier, he's in Saint tier.
Yeah, I mean Plato, Augustine, and Bonaventure. Those are like the three. Those three in connection to read are just fascinating.
Yeah, I'd put him in Saint tier because he's sort of the most important figure in philosophy.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't even really know how to argue otherwise.
Yeah. Okay, Socrates.
I mean, I don't know.
I'm throwing Socrates in Saint tier. Like I am the trust Socrates. Socrates is the best. I mean, if I could only read about or read words of anyone, it would be Socrates. I mean, the first statue I bought was of Socrates.
Because here's the thing: because Socrates is also the two main people who wrote of Socrates were Plato and Xenophon, correct?
Yes.
I've only read I think one Xenophon text. I forget which it was. It was in Portuguese. I'm not sure. The translation seemed fine. But I don't know because Plato is his Plato writing, and Plato. We never know really.
Yeah.
And maybe where Xenophon and Plato agreed, maybe that's what Socrates actually said. Is Plato really being, or is Plato basically using Socrates as a character, like Aristophanes used him in the clouds? Is what is happening here with the figure of Socrates? Is he trying to, show through some, fictional storytelling what Socrates really would have done or said, or is he just using his teacher, his supposed teacher? I think historically it seems to me at least very likely that Socrates did exist and was indeed Plato's and Xenophon's teacher. So what's really happening here? So Socrates, I don't know where to place him.
I mean, one thing I love about Socrates is that even today, people still write Socratic dialogues, and he's an example. What was it? I have it right here. And Peter Kreese, he had this whole series of Socrates meets, where Socrates' heaven is purgatory, and every philosopher upon their death has to be questioned by Socrates so they can get in heaven.
That is a funny concept.
It is. It's fantastic, and they are very fun. And the Socrates meets Kant is incredible. Socrates meets. At one point, Crete uses Socrates to insult Sartre, because Sartre was complaining that he's in hell alone and there's no one else there, and hell is other people.
Mm-hmm.
And so he has Socrates say, "That's because your eyes are ingrown like toenails."
He does have ingrown toenail eyes, doesn't he?
He does. I want to go Saint tier.
Sure.
What do you think?
Suicide's kind of lame. If I have to hear about a dialectic ever again, it will be too many times.
I don't want to argue this now, but I refuse to accept his death as his suicide. I will. I think that's an arguable point. But
would you say martyrdom?
Yes, I would say martyrdom.
Okay.
Yeah, I would go out distinction. I think it was I can't remember who said it, but it was Ledet and Kreeft both quoted is that the two most important men in Western civilization are Socrates and Jesus.
I might say it's Plato and Jesus.
I think the story of Socrates is more important. Even if he didn't exist, this is a literary figure. He is one of the most influential fictional characters.
Yeah,
so real or fake, he is
fair enough. We'll put him in. I just want to remind everyone that we have free pagans on saints and no Catholics on it.
Well, we haven't really got to any of the actual.
We have the actual saints coming up soon.
We have two. We have two. Is it no? We have free Catholics. Descartes, Phaser, and Maritana. None of them are in Saint tier. Just want to remind everyone of this. The free pagans, the free virtuous pagans are in Saint tier.
Yeah. Okay, next one. St. Augustine.
Yeah, the Saint
tier. Confessions alone puts him in Saint tier. City of God is incredible. On the Trinity is fantastic.
I haven't heard On the Trinity, but everyone says it's fantastic. I've read some of City of God. It's fantastic. I've read quite a bit of Confessions. I'm almost finishing it. It's fantastic.
Honestly,
I read The Teacher. It's fantastic. Which is a dialogue.
Just to quote, "Our hearts are restless, we rest in you, Lord." I think is the most important thing of Christian anthropological work ever. And it's from that quote. That's from that one quote alone. I want to put him in Saint tier.
Yeah, his explanation of how sin works. That sin is taking what should be God's and giving and taking it for yourself in a sense. Mm-hmm. So what is you want revenge? Well, who has better vengeance than the Lord? Do not avenge yourself, dearly beloved. If you, oh my God, how goes the rest of the line? Do not avenge yourself, dearly beloved, for vengeance belongs to me, so saith the Lord. You want riches, but what could be more rich than the Lord? You want glory, but what could be more glorious than the Lord? You want, there's a bunch of them. You want pride for yourself, but what could be more, who is, it's hard to say because I need to actually open it up and find it, but it's a great passage in the Confessions. And also he has a really intuitive explanation for how evil has no substance. Evil can't be substantive. Substantial, I suppose. Substantive is a different thing in English. I don't know. But in English, evil can't be substantial. It was really the first time I heard that idea. So personally, for me, he will always be Saint Tier.
Yeah.
Him and Peter Abelard, he was kind of instrumental for my conversion, especially his. I think it's his dialogue, the teacher, something like that, and his proof for God in that, which was very instrumental for me, especially considering Catholic philosophy again when I was like 18, 19.
Yeah. Ein, Saint Tier.
So I think honestly, like philosophically, I would put him in A tier. Like it's just, in terms of contributions compared to what our Saint Tier is. His his writing ability, his ability to convey his ideas, and just the ease with which you can read him elevates him up into Saint Tier, I think.
Yeah. Saint Tier.
If you were reading a bad writer that was condensing his ideas, it would not be as impressive as what he actually produced.
No, it would not.
Real quick, I put up a Twitter poll on who was the worst philosopher, and Ryan Dawson just commented that it was Kant, and so I just think that's kind of funny.
Well, Ryan,
he's right.
You were wrong. He might have been the most evil man who ever lived, but he was not the worst philosopher. You were wrong. Okay. Also, his competition is Rousseau for most evil man, so or at least among these guys, so that's pretty bad.
Okay, here we go. Fun one. Hans Hermann Hoppe. I got line with it. C tier?
I would put him firmly on C because I have a lot of affection for Hoppe. I actually really like his writing style.
I agree. He's very easy and fun to read.
I like him. He seems cool. I like the fact that he married like a rich heiress in Turkey and now he runs a 5-star hotel. I think that's awesome. I think that's really cool.
Out of all the people on this list who are living, which granted there's only like 7 people, he'd be the one I most want to talk to.
Yeah, I have a lot of affection for Hoppe. I really find him entertaining. I think the what's his proof for VNAPB argumentation ethics is incredibly interesting. I think it's completely wrong, but I think it's ingenious. I think it's an ingenious application of what is it? The concept, Habermas's concept of communicative action to Kantian ethics and a categorical imperative to a libertarian position. I think it's an ingenious application, and I think it's even more impressive for the fact that he can condense it to like 2 pages of writing, which is kind of insane. He's not like he will not write 20 pages when he can write 2.
Yes.
Which is extremely impressive, I think.
And I like Hoppe because how to put this? I'm obviously not a Marxist. I don't like Marxists, but I do enjoy some of like the ideas and critiques that of modern society come out of the Marxists. And Hoppe, I think, is a good. I think it was Bird who called him a post-Marxist. I think that's fair. And I think
that is fair.
Given how much of libertarianism and Austrian economics is built out of a response to Marxism, someone like Hoppe is just really fun and really smart. He's when he's wrong, he's interesting, and when he's right, he's fun.
I mean, we have also to consider the Little Dark Age edits.
Yes, the Little Dark Ages of Hoppe. And the Hoppe memes by him cooking schnitzel,
the Hoppe memes. The Hoppe memes.
Hoppe memes alone got him in B tier, right?
In my libertarian days, the Hoppe memes brought me a lot of joy. I just don't see him being that influential, partly because he doesn't write that much. I really like his economics. He's one of my favorite economic writers because he writes very succinctly. So it's like compared to a lot of the other writers of the Austrian school.
Have you read
Continental at least?
What's the Catholic? What's the student? This Catholic student.
Hussmann.
Hussmann. Have you read any of him yet?
I have not. I really want to read ethics. I have read one paper by him, which was really good, actually.
He's incredible. I mean, I think if he's
a good writer.
Apparently, I've talked to people who have talked to him, and they said, "Why don't you write more books?" He says, "Because I don't have tenure yet. But once he gets tenure, he has a bunch of books he wants to put out."
Oh, that's awesome!
And so I'm very excited for what he comes out with then, because he seems like a very in the know. Like his ethics money production is very scholastic. Like it's all also economics and Catholic stuff.
Yeah,
I started ethics money production, and I really need to get through it because what I read I enjoyed. And I sort of ran out of time. It was on my It's like early on when I was first talking with you guys. I think it was a tab on my browser, and I started it and just never got through it. But I want to.
One of the things I wanted to do before doing the podcast, but probably won't ever do because I'm ending it, was I wanted to do a live reading or at least a 5-part book club on that book. But I think we're not gonna get to it, obviously. But
yeah, I really like his. What was I gonna say? I think his attacks on postmodern epistemology and his defense of reason essentially are actually very good. His attacks on Richard Rorty, the philosopher, were very good and had a bit of understated Teutonic wit to it. His attack on modern economic epistemology and use of mathematics is also excellent. I think he might be. I think him and Rothbard are actually very good in attacking philosophy when it comes to economics of other people, especially. So, at least C. I'm almost putting him in B because Baudrillard is in B. And I think, you can always say he's on really the same level. But either C or B is where I would go. B might be too high because Descartes is there. Descartes and Kant are there.
Yeah. So is Land, and so is.
I feel like we need some more. We might need to start organizing these tiers at the end or something like that.
Yeah, so, Baudrillard and Land are more original than Hoppe for the most part. Hoppe is one big original contribution and a lot of very good additional interpretation and additional information, which he brings with his very continental Frankfurt school background.
Yeah.
So most German philosopher, most want to have a beer with him. His biggest contribution, like Bulge said, was argumentation ethics, which I think is garbage. When Caleb and I were talking to Grant and Jeremy recently, I compared it to the ontological argument for God in terms of just this sort of self-referential. I mean, you got it from Habermas, for God's sakes. Like I'm not impressed by it. The better I understand argumentation ethics, the more I think it is worthless. And it's his most like renowned contribution, and it's just awful.
For what it is, it's ingenious. It's an ingenious application, but I think it's because it starts from the first step is wrong. Therefore, the rest is completely insane wrong.
So I have trouble putting him in B for that reason alone. I would love to have a beer with him, like you said. The ones that are alive, I would. And I mean, just an awesome German Turkish. did the opposite of the complete opposite. Immigrated from Germany to Turkey, which is the exact opposite of whatever Turkish.
Yeah, I didn't even think of that. Yeah, he's trying to balance out net immigration.
I'm down. I'm going with C tier.
Yeah, I mean, I think he might be like the greatest living right wing single. I mean, I don't know who would really.
He's one of the most important living right-wing political thinkers. I'd say.
He's okay. Murray Rothbard. This is a tough one because if we were doing historians, I'd put him up pretty high. Economists, I put him up pretty high. Sociologists, I put him up pretty high. But as philosopher, it's like I don't. It's a tough one.
So I didn't like Star Wars. I remember that as a cultural critic. Hell,
his movie reviews are awesome though.
They're really funny. That's true. Awesome.
He's a
good writer.
I love reading Rothbard. He is most entertaining. Like his what have they done to our money? Is just one of my favorite. He's so much fun to read. Like he has one of my favorite writing styles of any 20th century. Like he's just fun to read and very engaging and entertaining.
Yeah. I mean, I still read Anatomy of the State every once in a while where I'm just like bored and I want to read something and I play video games, but I don't want to read anything heavy. I'll just read Anatomy of the State. It's fun.
Yeah, he's a fun writer.
I remember one of my first times, when I sort of started to doubt libertarianism as the end all be all of political philosophy. Though I was reading something by him. I think it was posted on Mises at some point, but it was he had this theory of justice that he put out. And what he concludes is that the way, what we should do for a system of justice is if someone wrongs you, you are allowed to wrong them in the same way twice.
Yes, that is a chapter in Ethics of Liberty, by the way.
And I remember reading that and thinking that was the most insane logical. It's like, okay, he's thinking and giving him credit, he's trying to trying to explore the green space and come up with interesting ideas, but it was just so completely mad that I'm like, okay, you have lost touch with some fundamental principle of ethics if this is how you think justice should work. So it's retributive ethics is what he's trying to get, and I think the most coherent form of libertarianism is retributive. I think because again he draws a distinction between
ethics and morality. So what you
Mhm.
ought to do and what you're permitted to do. So he's really saying you are permitted to wrong them as much as twice, because by wronging you, they have incurred a debt and they are obliged to pay up in some form or another in the same way that they wronged you, or at the same kind, twice what they did to you. And that's him trying to work out what is permissible to do. Yeah, I'm not impressed by him as a philosopher, certainly of ethics, but I quite like his critique of economic epistemology. He's obviously very skilled, I think, in mathematical reasoning, so that he can critique the uses of models very well from other people. He had a degree in bachelor in mathematics from Columbia University, I believe, which is just funny to me considering how much he critiqued the use of math in economics. And then he did a doctorate in history and economics. His history is, I think, fairly good. It's very tendentious later on. But, the bank run of 1812, I read a bit. It seems very good.
His book, his book on the Great Depression is incredible.
Yeah, I've heard very well of it.
And Conceived of Liberty is a very fun history book. Like if he was if we were making historians, I put him like A tier, but he's like Ethics of Liberty really soured me.
I mean, he also wrote a lot. I respect that. I mean, if one guy wrote history of economic thought under an Austrian perspective, if one guy wrote that for his entire career, I'd already be like, damn, that's actually quite an accomplishment to do all of that, to review basically the entire history of economic thought through the perspective of this one school you belong to, because these are big books. And he was working on a third one before he died.
Yeah, sadly, yeah. Like, those books are fun to read, easy to read, lots of information, was sourced and cited, and I think he does a very good job of like pulling out. I mean, Aristotle Plato never really wrote on economics. No one really wrote on economics to the School of Salamanca. But he pulls economic ideas out of like the small sentences from Aristotle on it, or from Plato. Yeah. And I think that's impressive. Like that alone makes you want to put him, like C tier or something. Like he's
I put him on C. I put him together with Hoppe.
Yep, I would agree with that.
That's a good one. Okay.
I'd say he's actually a high C tier because he certainly has written more than Hoppe. I mean, Man, Economy, and State, again, if you just wrote that, that's already incredibly impressive. I remember there was a joke on the Not a Podcast where, left libertarians say, I like 60s Rothbards, but not 90s Rothbards. And in 30 years, people will say, I like 90s Rothbards, but not 2010s Rothbards, because there's still so many books coming out from this dead guy. He's more productive dead than most people are living, which is just so impressive.
Yeah. And his book, he's just, Reclaiming the American Right. It's an incredible book of the right in America and stuff. His history is phenomenal.
I C tier. Maybe we need to put him. I put him higher than Nick Land. To be honest.
No, when we're done, what we'll have to do is reorganize a little bit, and then we'll have to maybe move on here. Like, okay, high C tier would be here, and low C tier would be farther out. So we have to reorganize based on that. Back where we had it. Hold on, I gotta reorganize it now.
It's fine.
Okay, there we go. There we go. Real quick though, this is a picture Grant sent me that I wanted to share with the screen. Real quick. John Paulsoff.
Oh man, that is unfortunate.
This guy had women throwing themselves into their graves when he died because they want to be buried with him.
Yeah, it's
this
called
guy.
Being a Frenchman. It's called being a French.
But look at him. But fucking look at him.
Yeah, the more disgusting he is, the better.
I would never understand the French. I would never do it. I can't.
France didn't deserve Meritain.
They did not. No, they did not
deserve Meritain. No, they did not.
But yeah, I had to say that real quick. I thought that was. Let me bring back up the. Okay, next one. Ayn Rand.
Saint Ayn.
Hell.
Only 3 philosophers worth reading: Aristotle, Aquinas, and Ayn Rand. Come on.
That's still my favorite photo. That's so awesome. That's so awesome. Just that. I'm that cool, man. That's like Wittgenstein level, but Wittgenstein is 10 times as smart as her.
Her novels are incredible, but her philosophy is books of this.
Well, I'm not sure I'd use the word love. I really like the Fountainhead. I really like the
Dude,
Fountainhead.
I would say I love the Fountainhead. Atlas Shrugged I would never finish, and I would never try to read again.
I
but
finished
the
Atlas
Fountainhead
Shrugged in
is-
like 3 weeks. I really
that is
enjoyed Atlas
impressive.
Shrugged. It could do without the 100-page philosophical intermission.
Do you know
It
what
could do
happened with
without
that?
that one.
Apparently, her editor wanted her to like cut the speech down, and her response was, "Sir, would you edit the Bible?"
Based. Okay, based. That's awesome.
It just keeps moving up.
I just respect the fact that she managed to write one of the longest novels ever written in any language. I mean, I really think it's like in top 10. I think it's longer than War and Peace. I think it's like longer than War and Peace by about 50,000 words. It's longer than I think the entire Lord of the Rings trilogy. And she managed to publish that, and 100 pages of that are just a guy ranting to you, the audience, about philosophy. It's just that. And it's so lovely because I have to imagine everyone is in the narrative, is like sat down for like 2 hours listening to the speech, just like doing nothing, and just like listening. And it's so funny. It's awesome.
But he also apparently always smelled like cat pee because he refused to neuter her cats.
An amazing cat lady story.
Yes.
Had sex with her students with Brandon with Brandon. What's his name? Nathaniel
Brandon. But not only that,
Nathaniel.
convinced both her husband and Nathaniel Brandon's wife that the affair was completely legit and they should allow it.
That's amazing. Amazing co-leader power.
And
Just
her quote on smoking is just such an incredible quote. You know, it's like holding the fire of Prometheus at your fingertips.
Yes.
It's fire.
Man.
If we're just making like her as a person, I want to put her higher. But if we're making her as a philosopher, she's got to go lower. And I don't want to put her in C tier because C tier was just a Phaser and Hopper and Rothbard. And
she's totally in B.
Totally
so we went through
B tier.
Yeah,
I don't think she's
above Phaser.
Because we went through Virtue of Selfishness. Like there's just the thing that she does well, especially compared to contemporaries, is we were talking about how like a lot of the people that would be below her on the list just didn't really get reality. And she sees good and evil as objective things much more clearly than the vast majority of modern philosophers, and has so many banger quotes. Understanding, like her idea about moral grayness and all that. Like we read these. They're very
true.
good.
Yeah.
Again, it's not original. Like her the best things she took from Aquinas and Aristotle, but she did take them from Aquinas and Aristotle, and she presented them in unique ways, and sort of reclaimed like she's about the best. Like the way we said that Descartes was the best you could ever do being an idealist. Rand's about the best you could ever do being a materialist.
That
like
is,
if you just don't understand Thales very well, and you take the fundamental reality that you get from Aristotle and Aquinas, she's about the best you're going to manage. So
I actually would agree with that. If you like, if you were an atheist, you should be a Randian.
I could put Rand at like bottom of B. I could. Okay.
Remember her deathbed conversion. One of the
Saint Rand. Yeah, of course. Yeah, she did. Remember, that's true. We did establish that.
We did.
That is true. That did happen. I read it.
This is so fucking weird looking. Phasers in C. Baudrillard's in B. Rand in B. This is so weird looking. I love it.
It's fantastic.
Okay, Foucault.
Hell.
I want to put him in hell as well.
I'm sure somewhere there's something interesting and thought-provoking in Foucault. When someone finds it, they can tell me. For now,
Jeremy and Grant both basically said the whole. Without him, they would never really formalize properly the whole gay as a potentiality that's just going to be used in the modern language kind of thing. Like apparently his history of sexuality is very fun to read, but not really like you're just kind of saying things.
If I remember correctly, Grant said like it's a lot. There's no fucking thesis to it. There's nothing.
It just kind of ends.
It's just. I mean, he also had this. I think Grant Jeremy also has this critique of like Camille Paglia's big book, Eros and something. Is it Eros and something? I forget.
Sexual Personae.
Sexual Personae. Yeah.
Camille Paglia is fun. I've been listening to her, reading her more lately.
She's funny. I like the butch lesbian bull dyke.
I tried to listen to her and Jordan Peterson, but every time she was talking, she would get angry, and it just sounded like a lesbian screed scene about their sex being real. and it wasn't what he was saying, but it had the same vibe. And I'm like, I can't listen to this. It was upsetting.
I
He's
enjoy
fantastic.
her. But yeah, Foucault is just like, I don't know, man. You're fucking weird.
Doing a quick Wikipedia, there is a heading on his Wikipedia page called "Views on Underage Sex," and I feel like that's all.
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah,
He was a libertarian?
We did the weekend.
He was a founding member of the Libertarian School of Sexual Ethics.
Yeah, okay. We got him. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, we got him. We went to the Wikipedia. We checked the Wikipedia page. We were promptly reminded of some facts.
He was the first public figure to die of AIDS.
He probably raped like a few little boys.
Yes.
In hell.
Yeah, in hell. He's definitely in hell. Okay, everyone agree on hell?
Yeah. Okay, our boy, our patron saint.
Yeah, he's
patron saint of online conference.
Purgatory.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, limbo at best.
Dude, obviously we're all gonna. He's looking to say he's just the best, you know. He's the
angelic doctor. There should be a separate tier for him.
Remember, guys, he was a strict empiricist.
He's so good. He's so good that there hasn't been a single decent English translation of him, forcing people to learn Latin to understand what the fuck he was saying.
That is fair.
Or Portuguese. He's okay-ish in a Portuguese.
Yeah, I can imagine in romantic languages it works okay.
Yeah,
but I still hope his commentary on Aristotle as like on.
I still need to read that.
Those are.
I've read a bit of De Verite recently, and that was quite fun.
But as fantastic as his original contributions obviously were, like just even his analysis of Aristotle, like just being able to interpret and understand Aristotle correctly, it was monumental.
Yeah, it's Aristotle too. Yeah, contemporary philosophy at the time.
Yeah, no, I think even like on personal details of stuff of his life and his actions was like the King of France and stuff. I want him. He's insane too. I mean, he's just incredible.
I don't know how much of this is true, but I was hearing some things. But apparently, he was just like we were talking about Plato being a wrestler. Like apparently, Aquinas was just like actually an ox, just like a bear.
Yes. He was from what I remember. I've seen a few passages. Actually, he was incredibly strong. Just unbelievably strong, but very massive, very broad-shouldered, probably.
Like Grant as a comment, Foucault gets B if Rand gets B.
That's also fair enough. That's a fair enough. But Rand didn't fuck little boys. So I don't know, man.
I think Rand would have actually managed to call that evil too. So that puts her up.
Yeah, that's true. Rand did manage to call fucking little boys evil, even if we say her reasoning to get there was wrong. She did manage to get some correct philosophical intuitions. So
honestly, her logic would probably be pretty good on that. Like, it's not Grant, the nature of man is not to be fucked by Foucault.
Look, Grant, you have to realize this. Despite thinking correctly that Rand is a retard, she did correctly intuit that Aristotle has all the answers. You have to take that into consideration. Like, you can't say Aristotle's the best, and then when a 70 IQ mouth breather gets, I agree, and then say, go away. You can't do that. You have to say, okay, fine, you get some point. Yes, but yeah, that's true. That's fair enough.
No, I would love to see Grant and Zammy cover Virtuous Selflessness.
We'll put Foucault at the top of hell.
Top of hell.
Yeah, he's above Rousseau. That's fair.
Okay, Bertrand Russell. Now, before we do this on Bertrand Russell, I have a little bit I want to read. This. He was a lifelong feminist, an activist for women's rights. Yet his action to women was abominable, even by the standards of his free-thinking friends. Sidney Hook wrote that Russell, despite his advanced age, was pursuing anything in the skirt that crossed his path. Okay. He was carried on flagrantry, even with the servant girls. Not behind his wife's back, but before her eyes and those of his house guests. And middle age, he and his second wife started a progressive school where after 2 hours of lessons, the students could run riot. After a few years, they declared service failure and closed its doors, unlike the philosophy that spawned.
I mean, did he have some Latino blood in him? Like, how did that happen to an Anglo?
Yes, well, apparently he was like an earl and a duke. And he was an orphan. Like he was raised by his puritanical grandmother, which is why he hated Christians. Okay. He from a personal perspective, he's one of those guys where everything he says is wrong, but he says it so beautifully you keep reading, and his personal life story makes him more interesting. So I don't want to put him in hell. I don't want to put him in purgatory. but
he's
he is
important for
awful.
logic and
Yes.
mathematics. He's important for that. I don't know if I put him on B, but I'd certainly put him on top of C, if only for his, his take on logic, mathematics, and his importance for the development of analytic philosophy in the 20th century. Even if we disagree with analytic philosophy, there actually has been quite a bit of, I think, logical progress in the 20th century. That is, even if we say that Bertrand Russell was wrong on that or this, he did, I remember, point out a fatal flaw to Gottlob Frege, who's the founder of analytic philosophy, in his book, which was incredibly important. I forget it because I'm not a mathematician. I'm not that interested in like set theory or whatever it was. And I remember it was something to do with set theory. So he's very smart, very important. I'd probably put him in B or C. Yeah, I mean, we put Ayn Rand in B. I'm okay with putting this guy in B. And he's
B?
at least, he's interesting enough that I think his arguments against God, such as brute facts or whatever, have to be rebutted. Whereas Rand, I never saw her argument against God. So, like, he developed an argument that is worthy of rebuttal.
I think she had enough shame never to try and present one.
Yeah, fair enough.
So my great Russell story is because one of his big mathematical contributions was Principia Mathematica that he did with Whitehead, and where they basically trying to just like derive all of mathematics. And it's just this again using set theory and axiomatic notation. And then like 10 years later, Gödel publishes his theorem showing that their entire project was doomed to failure from the start and that it can't possibly work. And it's the entire thing just falls apart because they want to try and do everything in their axiomatized set theory language. And it takes them, I think it's like page 50. Right, hold on, I've got it here. No, page 397, where they get to one plus one equals 2 in their derivation of mathematics.
That's awesome.
And it's just so
insane. Love it.
And when during the process of writing it, I think he was sleeping with Whitehead's wife like most of the time. They found out later.
Oh man, incredible.
He's okay. So what are we thinking here?
I mean, I hate him, but I appreciate Bulge's respect for what he did. So B or C is okay with me.
B or C. I'm leaning C. Mainly because I thought his debate with Cobblestone was interesting, but he just kind of was like necessary. He's like necessary thing makes no sense, and that's not his argument.
I lean B, and because he is usually incredibly respected as a logician, and I admire the relentless skirt chasing.
Yeah, me too.
Just relentless.
I kind of respect that.
No stop. Just going for it.
Yeah,
if you're an atheist, that's kind of where you have to do. I
was one of the few like prominent liberals to not be swayed by like Russia. Like he apparently visited Russia, met with Lenin, and was like, "This guy's a loser who's just a dictator of his people, and everyone should be free." He's one of the few like political liberals not to
Stalin, where all his other like intellectual friends are like, "Stalin is great. I love Stalin."
He's one of the few liberals not to be swayed by Russia, so I actually respect him for that.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go B tier.
And he did manage to be like a libertine without fucking little boys. So
that is another respect for saying
he did rape little boys, I think.
Most chaste libertine.
Well, no, that's probably Albert Camus, really. As far as I can at least say that this man was incredibly straight, from what I understand.
Speaking of Camus, here we go. Albert Camus. Well, how do you say his name? Honestly, I can't see his. Every time I see him, all I think is, "Oh yeah, this is Bones." Like I see it, and this is how I imagine you when you speak.
You even picked the profile.
I specifically looked for that one.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I put him in C. I love him.
I have never read him,
but I love him.
Read anything about him. All I know about him is what I've heard from you. So I'll leave it to y'all.
Short novels. Read the short novels. Read the L'Étranger, The Strange, The Outsider. And read The Fall. Principally, read The Fall. I think The Fall is his best novel, and it's like 90 pages. It's a novella, really. It's not a novel. I think it's his best work. I think he thought it was his best. No, he didn't. Yeah, no, he thought The Rebel was his best work. But that's nonfiction. He's very interesting. His work on the history of revolution, which is The Rebel, is really good. It's very interesting. Its conclusion is but it's very, very good. Excellent, I'd say.
I can't remember the exact details, but I remember reading that this Sartre fucking hated him.
At one point, they were best of friends before. Sartre admired him a lot. I remember Sartre, when he read The Outsider, was kind of I mean, he basically thought it was like something like novel of the century. He was just so impressed by it, and it had a really deep impact on him. And like when it was published in like 38 or something, 1938 that is. And I like Camus because he played soccer. He was a big soccer player. He loved soccer more than philosophy. There was an awesome like Nobel when he won the Nobel Prize for Literature. He was like, they interviewed him while he was watching a soccer game. He's not even looking at the interviewer. And he's just watching the game. He's like, oh, why did they choose you? I don't know. They just wanted like a youngish guy. I don't know. I write decently. I don't think I should have won. It's like fine. He's not that impressed by it. And it's so awesome. He's so cool. And he played in like the African League for Algeria as the goalkeeper with his youth. So he loved soccer. He loved his mom. I know this because it was a big influence in The Outsider. Because I think his mother at one point became deaf or mute, which is a big influence on The Outsider. Because The Outsider has a lot of, it's a lot of describing physical events without describing emotion, but it's very peaceful at times. And so it feels like that with the relationship between Meursault and his mother in The Outsider. He's very interesting. He was part of the French Resistance. He refused to kill anyone. I remember he said this was an incapacity for him. He could never bring himself to think murder of anyone was justified for him. He could see that this was in the plague here. He said this is almost a problem with him, but he even thinks that any execution of any criminal is actually too far. In a sense, he almost gets the Catholic position. It's like it's not right that we should kill. I need to reread notes on the guillotine. But he does come out against capital punishment, and he's very much against even just killing whenever can ever be avoided. So he's an interesting figure.
So
I quite like him. He's against suicide, which is also awesome. So he had a few surprisingly Catholic positions. I know he quite likes the Christian existentialists because he thinks the atheists also make a leap to not believe in God, a leap of faith. But at least the Christians, like Kierkegaard, acknowledge their leap. The atheists think they're just automatically correct. So I quite like Camus, but I put him in terms of actual philosophical thought. C as a novelist, I'd say he's actually worthy of a Nobel Prize from his short stories and his novels.
And what are your thoughts?
I mean, Bulge pointed out enough Chad tendencies. I got to go to B.
B.
Like he's too cool. Like again, philosophy probably a C, and I think he's too much of a Chad not to be a B.
Yeah, if we're gonna put Weston in here, if we're gonna put Weston in B for the skirt chasing, we gotta put him in the B.
Fair enough. He had like 2 mistresses wherever he went. He had like at least 2 girlfriends. I remember reading that somewhere. Grant said Rand is getting Title IX into a B. Which
is she the only woman on? Okay, no, Edith Stein's on there too.
Yeah, I have at least 2.
We have one more woman, and she is a saint, so I shall probably do well.
Okay, so in Kierkegaard,
I have read very little of him. I quite like what I've read.
Same. The more I read, the more I want to place him higher. Like he's very.
Is he on A? No, I'm not sure. Is he on A?
I want to.
Very important. He's basically. Yeah, I think we could put him on A on almost influence. I think
Crave called him a Protestant Augustine, based on his writing output and his personal story. I think he's actually a really cool personal fact about him is that his dad, at one point, his dad was a poor shepherd, and he got so mad about being a poor shepherd that he used to spend an hour like cursing at God. And he felt so bad afterward, he was convinced God was going to kill all his kids before they reached the age of 34, so they wouldn't ever live past the age of Jesus. And on his 31st birthday, God was like, holy shit, I'm still alive. That's amazing.
His quote, honestly, I'm going to be very real. His quote on journalists is A-tier worthy.
Yes, it is. His work on love also, I think he has some really good stuff on like, he draws on 2 kinds of love, like agape and... what's the other love?
There's a couple of
philia.
I can't remember.
Philia, agape.
I think it was agape.
Agape, storge, philia, eros. Those are the 4.
Eros and agape. He kind of draws. He focuses on those 2 on love and his work on love. I thought it was really good. I want to put him in B, if not A.
I want to put him in A because also my favorite Twitter poster and I guess blogger is basically a Christian. He might be a Catholic. I don't remember. I know he believes in saints. but which is Egg Report or Randy, also known as Garfield Bot or Randy on Twitter. I really like him, and he's basically a mix of Kierkegaard and Wittgenstein when it comes to writing style and arguments.
That's awesome.
And I really like his explanation of either or, where he has this critique of post-Christian stuff where we want to get a lot of the Christian conclusions without the hard work of actually being Christian and believing all that stuff and being the Good Samaritan. And he says this is a Kierkegaardian either or. You either take the whole thing with the conclusions and all the hard stuff, or you take nothing of it. You can't do it. And I really like the explanation of that.
Kierkegaard's focused on like the individual had an important leap of faith, so it was really good. Also, I can't remember how he phrased it, but he had this great it's not a quote, but he had this thing about the anxiety. He had a whole little topic on anxiety, and the anxiety of this isn't a face is that the anxiety of having to decide your eternal fate. At the same time, it's the anxiety of having all of it rely on you. Like you are maximally free, and you have the maximum consequences when it comes to face. I just thought it was a really good way of explaining like this isn't a face.
I'd go on A because he's basically the creation. He influenced all the existentialists. He influenced some of the best Protestants, I'd say. He had some influence on Catholics, I believe. Someone like Gabriel Marcel, the French Catholic, would certainly have been influenced by Kierkegaard. He influenced philosophical analysis of stuff like anxiety. He was the first one to take something like that very seriously. So I have quite a lot of affection for Kierkegaard easily, and I think in terms of influence and also general intelligence, he's easily an A, I'd say.
Yeah. Ein, what are your thoughts?
I haven't read enough to disagree too much. What I have read, I agree with A.
A? Yeah.
Okay.
Nietzsche.
Influence alone, he's on influence at least. Let's consider characteristics for a second. Influence, he's A. Style, I think he might be also A in terms of style, because his aphorism styles are actually really cool. And I really enjoyed those books out of Fuchsia because it's just insane. And I really enjoyed that. I think Peter Kreeft has said, like, you go running away from Sartre, but you also go running away from Nietzsche, but every now and then you come back because it's just fun. And he is fun.
I think
his genealogy is retarded, but it's fun.
I can't remember who it was, but someone described him as basically a poet more than a philosopher.
That's fair in a way. Yeah. He does have philosophy. He really does. I think his comments on Kant and Schopenhauer, but a lot of them are in aphorisms, and they're basically poetical in style.
And what I know about the Road to Power, I think is fun and neat. I don't agree. I like it. I think Road to Power is interesting.
But at the same time, obviously, it's like his entire system of philosophy we disagree with.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm sure, obviously he has interesting observations, but his every now and then, and his aphorisms can be cool, but taken as a whole, it's like if we take his philosophy as a whole, we would put it in hell tier. If we take comments and insights and style and influence,
I'm going A tier.
Yeah, in terms of influence, style, and insights, every now and then he probably should go A. In terms of philosophy as a whole, it's hell tier.
Yeah.
So that's what you have to
weigh. I was on a Protestant beach trip for a weekend when I was in my old church, and it's 2021. I was 19, and I was bored because everyone was being boring, and so I downloaded an ebook of Beyond Good and Evil. Mm-hmm. And I just sat there and read it, but could not stop reading it. I don't think I actually understood most of it because I was really stupid, but I just remember not being able to stop reading it. It was very he's fun to read.
He's fun. I like him. We could put him in A. It's either A or hell. I don't think it really is.
It is.
There's no between.
Speaking of Kierkegaardians, either or, he's either A or in hell. There is no middle ground here for Nietzsche, I think, which is also what I like about him.
Same.
You really have to have a visceral response to him. My visceral first reaction as a 16-year-old edgy teen was, of course, I love this guy. This guy's my dude. I love him. But still, it's you kind of, wherever you pick at him in a moment of your life, either as a young man or middle age or an old man, you can't be indifferent to him. Yeah. It's impossible. He can't be BC or purgatory. He has to be A or hell. Mm-hmm. And I guess if you're an edgy teen like me, he's either S or hell. You can't really. So he really is a battle between extremes.
He's a tough one.
I think I'd say A personally.
Given how we've ranked other people on here based on on not just the philosophy but like their influence and personality, so we have to go A. But if we were doing like a strict like ideas, he'd obviously go in hell.
Yeah, I go A
thoughts
personally.
So, I mean, just like we said with Descartes, like we said with I can't remember who the other one was.
Kant.
Maybe it was Kant, but no, not Kant, but like the guys that just do their philosophy better than any, like that have their wrong ideas as perfectly as they can be expressed.
Yes,
I think he nails that. And just to go like, this is a man that embraced his insane philosophy to the point that it actually drove him completely mad. He actually drove himself insane believing the nonsense that he espoused. Obviously influential. The more I find out about people like Max Stirner and predecessors to him, the less impressed I am by his originality. Like I see so much of his ideas in people that came before him that just didn't express themselves as clearly. I hate Stirner. He's a less eloquent, slightly more insane Nietzsche, if you can believe.
Yes, most coherent German idealist.
I say what it is like I like Stirner only for like how his property stuff works. Like obviously properties, whoever just takes it and then can defend it.
How is this not will to power though? Like how is this just not a worse expression of the same idea?
Yeah, Nietzsche is way better at expressing
he's
whatever the hell
better.
he wants to.
He's definitely better, but I do. Max Stirner is somebody I read about.
Yeah,
I
have to go A.
I'm fine with it. Being mad enough to yell at your horse puts him in A tier for me.
And he did. I think his comment. I've seen this actually echoed by Tom Holland, who wrote Dominion. I think Popular Liberty spoke very well of Dominion, and Bishop Robert Barron recently had a conversation with him.
It was a good conversation.
Yeah, it was pretty good. And I remember he actually speaks of this. Is that really Nietzsche also notices before everyone else that really it's Christian conclusions from like a certain period in time. Usually, I think Holland thinks it was like in the 1400s, that led to the Enlightenment and the disbelief in Christianity because they were taken to an extreme or because they were wrong conclusions or they were, good premises that they took the wrong way. And Nietzsche realized that it was sort of Christianity, I would argue, was really some, Catholic philosophers mostly, or let's say Catholic laymen, Catholic thinkers, Catholic philosophers, but I'd argue mostly was results of the Protestant Reformation. Of course, I would. This is not a Protestant podcast, so of course I'd say that. But really, it was a lot of Christian thought that essentially led to the Enlightenment, and I think that's fair when you look at Locke was a Christian, Descartes was a Catholic, and you look at other people like that. But at a certain period in time, there were certain decisions made or certain positions taken by Christian and Catholic writers that allowed the modern science of the time to flourish, but that also led to what's the name? Trans story hour in the library. It's like
Drag Queen
story hour. Yeah, that led to that. So he's one of the first people that I think saw that. So he's interesting for me because of that. He does have penetrating insights every now and then, even though his philosophy as a whole doesn't even allow for insights into the world. But whatever.
Okay, last one. St. Edith Stein.
Yeah, well, I think, am I the only one who's actually read her?
I've read the first chapter of Silence of the Cross.
Okay, well, I love her.
It's not letting me put her back down the unchosen category, so she's not just resting in hell.
Just put her in Saint. Take her out. Don't leave her there.
Okay, no, I do. This her story of martyrdom puts her in the same category, literally and figuratively for this. She is incredible. The more I read, I started reading here, and I'm like, I really need to go back and I need to finish reading St. John of the Cross before I go into this. Was my decision. That's why I put it down.
Her dissertation on empathy, which I don't remember if it was before her conversion to Catholicism. Maybe it was, or maybe it was, was started before. This was her equivalent of the doctoral dissertation in Germany at the time. I believe is already incredibly impressive piece of phenomenological investigation into empathy. Her work on trying to get from Thomism to phenomenology and from phenomenology to Thomism is just very interesting. There are parts where I would need to read more phenomenology to understand, but it's very, very interesting. And I think she does have useful clarifications of language for how to deal with Thomistic doctrines in modern language that isn't Latin, which she bemoans beautifully for like 15 pages.
Funny. The only reason she's listed here is I was gonna put Ma in Heidegger, but I figured if we're gonna do a phenomenologist, we gotta do Edith Stein.
Yeah, as a phenomenologist, I love her. I've only read a bit of Kreuz Wissenschaften, which is Science of the Cross, but it's amazing. I love her. I think she's great, and I think it was incomplete, by the way, Science of the Cross.
Really?
Because she was martyred before she could finish it, or she had to run away or something. If I remember correctly, I might be wrong, but I know she started writing it as due to her sisters of the Carmel asking her to. But I do dearly love her. Santa Teresa Benedicta Croce, I believe, is her not what's the correct term? The name she took when she joined the convent.
Religious name is what I've seen.
Her religious name. Yes.
Yep.
So that's the Teresa Benedict would be blessed. Teresa Blessed of the Cross, or Blessed by the Cross, I believe, something like that. If my translation is decent, so I really love her. I think she's amazing. I think it's worth reading her. Her short essays are also very much worth reading. So she's just a very interesting figure overall. I've heard Alistair MacIntyre, which is a somewhat well-renowned Catholic philosopher. Certainly the influence of After Virtue is quite important for the revival of virtue ethics in modern thought. He has a book on her, I think just called Edith Stein, which I haven't read, so I can't vouch for it. But if you're interested, it's shorter than reading her books. So it's basically a short introduction to Edith Stein. So I can maybe recommend that to people who are interested in her thought without, having to read a bunch of phenomenology beforehand and try and understand what the hell is a Dasein, what is being in the world, what the hell does that mean? So I'd recommend that, I suppose, if anyone's curious, but I do love her. I put her in the same.
Yeah, I have not read enough of her, but everything that I have read, she is definitely insane tier.
Yeah, same tier. Okay, so this is our list. Is there anything we want to readjust now we've kind of placed everybody? Anybody we want to move?
Yeah, I think we want to. I mean, what we want to do is move them within ranks, I guess. Yeah.
But,
so Kant, I put at top of B with Descartes.
Put him below Descartes at least.
Let's start with the bottom, move up to the top. Let's start. So is this one good? Rousseau first, then Foucault.
Rousseau should be at the bottom of hell, but Rousseau should be like having his head chewed on by Satan in Dante. Rousseau at the very bottom.
I will say again, I don't think Rousseau raped kids. I don't think that.
Fine.
Okay, I'm going to switch those. Okay, Purgatory tier. Peterson, Harris, Hume, and Dawkins.
I don't care about the rest, but Harris needs to go to the bottom.
And Hume to the top, I think.
Hume to the top, yeah.
I could even make a case for moving Hume to the bottom of C tier, and I wouldn't hate it.
Yeah.
So everyone good here? Hume?
Yeah, I think we're fine.
I would maybe put Hume at the bottom of C.
Want to move Hume?
Yeah,
bottom of C?
I'm fine with that.
Bottom of C. C tier. Phaser?
I'd put, I guess, Rothbard above Locke and at least above Sartre.
Okay, Hopper. Did he move him at all? Is he above Sartre? Is Locke above Rothbard and Hopper?
I would actually say so. I think
so
their epistemology is way better, and I think their libertarianism is more consistent than whatever Locke is proposing.
Okay. Is Sartre above Locke, or is this one good?
He's a better writer.
Yeah,
I get it. Some of his novels are interesting. I read Nausea, and that was interesting and well written, if weird.
That one's good.
I have no idea where to put. Yeah, I think it's fine.
It's good. Yeah,
yep.
Hume's a weird one to place, I feel like.
I'd actually say Hume is above Locke. I find Locke so uninteresting. I'd actually put him above.
That's fair.
Okay. Descartes, still top of B?
Yeah, I'd say so.
Yeah, I'd say sub B.
I would put Kant just behind him. Kant just behind Descartes already.
Yeah, I'd move Kant up to yeah, there we go.
Perfect. There we go. Baudrillard. Above Land, above Russell, and above Camus?
I would say Baudrillard above Land just because of influence. Land is very interesting, but he's very niche. And I really like how Land writes. I'd put Land above Rand I don't know. Would I? I'd put him above Russell.
Is Rand good? Everyone like where Rand is?
So I definitely would move Camus up.
Yeah,
Above,
sure.
above Land, above Land.
I'd probably put him between Beauregard and Land, honestly. But I could be.
That's fair. That's fair, I think.
Okay, Ayn Rand and Russell. Who's going to be the back end?
God,
Russell's more important for logic.
I still hate not seeing Russell in hell. So I'm fine with having Russell at the bottom of B and Rand above him.
Okay.
Sure. Okay. We'll settle for that.
Maritain, Nietzsche, Wittgenstein, Kierkegaard.
I actually think this is a decent order. Maybe Wittgenstein goes in front of Maritain. That's all that maybe, because Wittgenstein is undoubtedly more important for the history of philosophy than Maritain. I would say that.
I'm gonna just pull the physiognomy card and the Catholic card and leave Maritain where he is.
I mean, he does have amazing physiognomy, doesn't he? Just beautiful. What a beautiful man.
Okay, final one, Saint Thiel.
Angelic Doctor number 1, Aristotle number 2.
Okay,
that's fair.
Okay, that's fair.
Augustine above Plato.
I put Augustine third probably.
Okay. Plato above Socrates.
I'd go Plato first, actually.
Okay. Plato is. Do you want either side of A back, or do you want her above Plato and Socrates?
No, I'd say above, very back.
Yeah,
I put her above Socrates.
Really? That was. Yeah, I can see it.
I don't know.
Because Socrates never wrote anything down. All we have is him through Plato and other people.
Yeah, that's true.
So we actually don't know what he saw, but as a literary figure, we know what he saw.
Yeah, I remember I was considering putting Socrates in purgatory only because it was like, what the hell was the real Socrates?
Yeah.
Would be my question. So, yeah, okay. I can put him at the back of St.
Okay. Let me save this. And anyone listening, you can actually, I'll put a link to this tier list yourself, and you can fill it out yourself and post it to Twitter or save it here. We can see it later. So.
Yeah, you should post it on Twitter and ask people to comment on it with their own version. See if they like the game.
Yeah.
Let them know I kind of want to do my own separately from this, and just put a lot of people in.
Yeah,
that's my biggest gripe.
Aquinas on Saint Tier, and that's it. Everyone else, hell, instantly.
This is the list. Let me. I'm just make sure I saved that properly. Austro. Don't. My keyboard. My keyboard is being weird.
You take that eye out, by the way.
Yeah, my keyboard is being really laggy and throwing in random keys. Austro Thomism. Let's leave it live. Save. And download. Whoa. Okay, there we go. Okay. I think I'll leave that up so I can get it later if I need to. And now my computer's lagging out.
Great.
Fantastic. Okay, we're back. Okay. Well, we've gone for almost 2 hours. This is the final. Maybe not final because I'm not gonna do my own podcast, but I'm still gonna come on if I'm getting invited on something. So this will probably be the end. This might be the last. This might be the last Austro Thomism roundtable with me on it. It's been a lot of fun.
2 years, when you read "Sexual Desire" by Roger Scruton, I'll get you on to just talk about it for a bit.
We're gonna start inviting Caleb onto the Austro Thomism roundtable.
It's our show, line. It's our show now. It's our YouTube channel.
It is yours now, actually. Yeah. So yeah,
that's amazing.
Yeah, the Discord now owns it.
Yeah, it's public property. It's part of the commons now. We'll see how well managed it is.
Yeah. It's gonna be so weird, like popping on YouTube and going, "Oh shit, I'm live," and clicking it. It's gonna be awesome.
And it's like Jay doing a shitpost stream.
That's my one thing. Like the will of my podcast career is Jay can never be on Austro Thomism. That's in my will. That's the will.
That's a good rule. Okay. Yeah, ownership is conditional and never allowing Jay on.
Yes.
Very anti-Semitic of you. I don't approve.
Yes. Well, no, Zay can't come on. After his comments on his own show about me, he can't come on.
I also partook of those comments. But
but I like you, so you're fine.
Oh, okay. I get it.
No, Zay is great. I love that guy. Anyone listening, go listen to Rhodes and his stream on cognitive dissonance. It is hilarious.
It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, Enzo listening to it. Yeah, anyone listening, actually just go ahead and subscribe to Zay. So he might put out one episode the next year. He might put out 5. Who knows? But when he drops them, they're fun. Anything coming up? I know you guys are doing at least the Maritime live readings. Are you going to continue that?
Yes.
We should get a date. Yeah.
Probably after we when we're offline, Bulge and I are going to set a date that we are going to record chapter 3, just to make us stick to a timeline of reading it. I'm still enjoying Maritime. It is still very hard to read, and if I'm only doing 10 pages at once, the next time I read the same 10 pages again because I forget. Like it's but it will happen.
I need to set out some time and just read them. That's what I need to do.
Okay, well, I think only things I have on the books is I'm doing a book club with LB Muniz. We're going to cover the 5 dialogues of Plato, the main 5 in dealing with Euthyphro to the death. That's gonna be a lot of fun.
I love Euthyphro.
It's fantastic.
I love the ending of it, which is just the guy's like, "Look, don't bother me with this bullshit, man. I need to get to a trial."
I love how I love the ending of every Platonic dialogue. They always have a very abrupt and fun ending. And people just be like, "I guess I don't know what I'm saying." Socrates, he goes, "Yeah, I guess you don't," and he kind of just moves on.
Like I always interpreted Symposium like of the gay guys being catty ex-lovers as just a big gay joke, and it's always really funny to me.
I love the Symposium so much.
It's great. I love it. I love all of it.
And then on April 21st, I decided it. I'm doing a 24-hour live stream, April 21st.
So what day of the week is April?
Yeah, Friday. It's a Friday.
Oh, okay.
So from Friday,
do my best to join.
From Friday at 7 to Saturday at 7, I will be live. Content-wise, hopefully lots of guests. And if I don't have any guests, I'm going to either stream myself playing a video game or just read the Book of Zona. I don't know which one.
We should actually get a video game to play for like 6 of those hours or something.
We should work on we should get like a Civilization game going or something.
Oh yes, I do have.
That would be fun.
I think I have Civ 5 and 6. I think.
Yeah. No, Civ or Among Us would be a lot of fun to get like the guys to play from the Discord.
I would spend like $5 or something to get Among Us or whatever.
Yeah, it's definitely worth playing. And I am in the works on a bonus episode. Maybe if I can get the guest, I'm gonna do it. But the guest is not like certain. And I might come back if we end up getting land. I obviously will come back to talk to land. I will drop everything to talk to land on that. But yeah, that's the only thing we have coming out going forward. We're on Substack now. Our website is dead. We moved to Substack.
Yeah, I am working on a big article on Substack on theodicy. Ooh, awesome. It is massive. It's probably the biggest thing I have ever written. Probably ever, like in a single thing, because probably gonna end up being like 20 pages on Microsoft Word by the time I'm done. And I'm probably gonna try to get most of it done is it called Holy Week in English?
Yes.
Okay, I'll probably try to get a big chunk of it done in Holy Week. We'll see how much time I have after that for progress, because because we have 2 midterms in Brazil usually for some of our courses in university. So we'll see how well I'm doing, because I have midterms around before and after Holy Week. So we'll see how I'm doing with that.
Ian, you have anything coming out on Substack soon?
In theory, I haven't produced anything in like 6 months, and I'm kicking myself. Like I've got my materialism article that I'm so excited to finish, but I've had zero free time to do it. But at some point,
you are a family man, so you have obligations, but it's fine.
Family, who needs them?
Let's go live in the woods and write books. Let's see. Articles I've coming out. I am almost finished with my second apologetics dialogue on the deuterocanonical books. Those are fun. Those are very fun to write and fun to work on. But I have to listen to Calvinists, and I refuse to do it. I have tabs of videos I need to watch on their arguments. And every time I click it, I hear what's his name? Oh, the Calvinist with the dumb goatee and the sweater vest.
James White.
James White. Yeah, if I hear his voice, I just get angry and have to shut it off. I can't do it, but eventually I will get through the arguments and I'll have that dialogue out. And I'm working on a new series I want to write where I take different saints and I write about how they ordered themselves in the times they were in to be saints and how to use as inspirations for the times we're in. I'm working on one now on Saint Monica, Augustine's mom.
I should eventually write one for that, because I have a lot of love. I think the first saint I aside from the Blessed Lady, of course, but the first saint I grew to admire and love from a childhood age was Saint Joan of Arc. So I should actually one day write on that.
That'd be awesome.
After I finish the massive article on theodicy that 2 people will read. after I finish that. Those two people are Caleb and I'm Cat.
I'm so Grant. I'm so we can get Grant has to read it.
I could get Has to read it. Yeah, that's true. I could get Has to read it when he wakes up at like 2 a.m.
Yeah,
we're gonna go offline. He's gonna like just start pinging you like, "Hey, I'm ready."
Yeah, I'm good.
Also, we can hop back on Has and we'll do our own list.
Maybe
that'd be fun.
I'm curious what he thinks of our list actually.
Yeah, I would love that. I'm gonna post a link in the screenshot on Discord and kind of see people's thoughts.
Just a thought, and then we're gonna get trashed by the entire.
It's like
Discord.
You put Nietzsche at A.
Yeah, Grant has said he doesn't read. Oh yeah, Grant, you don't read, but you need to write. I'm gonna actually bully you about writing before
Grant needs to write more. I'm trying to think if we got anything.
Don't worry,
else.
I'll get on Discord like before midnight here, and I will bully you. Don't worry.
Yes, we'll bully you, Grant. I don't think there's anything else we need to get out there. I think that's everything. I think I'm missing something, but I can't remember what it was.
Usually be plugs for Twitter accounts, but me and I are out of Twitter for 14 more days or something? 12, 13? I don't know.
14.
I can't count. It is 14. Okay.
Nice.
How many days until April 7th? Until April. It's in my most searched thing on Google because when I say how, it just says how many days until April 7th.
It is Sunday today, so that should make it pretty easy to count. But
yeah, that's true. I'm just not that bright.
Okay.
12 days. Well, yeah. Okay, we're good.
I think that's everything. Everyone, thanks for listening. I've thoroughly enjoyed doing these roundtables. Hopefully, I'll get invited back on from these two to come and join it again. But it's been fun. Like, comment, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell if it's there, so you can hear anything coming out in the future from Bones and I on Mariton.
From not Caleb. In the future.
Not me,
literally anyone but Caleb. We have an entire Discord full of people.
Yes. I know. I think at one point Has mentioned he might do something because he is involved, but I've only had him on once because he is just incredibly busy and time zones suck.
We'll get him to interview his priest at one point.
That would be fun.
He's going to live in the rectory, I think. So
that's so cool.
That is awesome.
I am so jealous of Haz's life. Every time he tweets about his life, I'm like, that sounds amazing.
He's just Catholic Niles Crane from Free
Yes,
That's
who
awesome. He is. He's like beautiful. A Dickens character. He's like a Dickens character, but Niles Crane, if you take out the sitcom dialogue, is like a Dickens character. He's like a Dickens aristocrat. It's really funny.
It's awesome. Thanks for listening. Have a good night.